Blazing screens, chaos unfolds, crimson law, tales retold, anime wars, blades collide, justice screams, nowhere to hide. Crimson law, judgment reigns, shock critique, breaking chains, blood red ink by the blade, true belief for silverhead, elven base. Elven base. Neon skies, warriors clash, pixel worlds, honor slash, battle cries, vengeance near, crimson's wrath, all shall fear. Thunder roars the verdict grim, mechs explode, lights grow dim, bloodlines torn, broken dreams, crimson law silencing screams. As heroes fall and villains rise, shattered dreams and severed ties, stand and fight, the time is nigh, rising up to do what's right. Crimson law, judgment reigns, shock critique, breaking chains, blood red ink by the blade, truth unleashed for silverhead, elven babes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back, finally, to Animated. And I've got a lot to cover. Unfortunately, I'm still not all the way caught up. I think I'm behind on just a handful. I have no idea what that is. If you guys can hear the booming in the background, I have my windows open because it's hot around here. But yeah, I'm not going to be talking about Scum of the Brave tonight, and I think I'm still behind on Demon Lord's Daughter. And those are the only two that I won't be covering tonight as far as weeklies go. However, there is a bunch of other stuff that we're going to talk about, so that works out just fine. The fewer things that I have to sit here and bitch about, the better. So, what's on the docket tonight? Well, a bunch of trailers that have come out over the past couple of weeks. The past 2 weeks, I should say, since the last time I streamed was, 2 weeks ago. Plenty of manga. There's going to be lots of literary discussion for this one, just like the last time. And then, of course, we're going to have to get to the review of 86. The anime 86. I'm not making a fucking Five Nights at Freddy's joke right now. Right? It's just I'm talking about 86, okay? And then, of course, we do have weekly discussions and all that. It's going to go on later, and waifu tier list stuff that we will talk about. Because tonight, for the waifu tier list, I have decided that I was going to add Frieren, and because I've been seeing a lot of fan art for Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian, I decided that I was just going to go with that one too. So that's what we're putting on the list tonight. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. So, what's been going on for the past 2 weeks? A lot for me, actually. And it was kind of somewhat overwhelming. Basically, last week I had to cancel because we were wrapping up a job and we were taking all the time that we had available to us to try and finish up the last few things that we needed to do. So I apologize for that, but at this point, work and such takes priority over doing these streams and all that. So I hadn't been able to get around to watching a bunch of anime for that stream, and I hadn't really, stocked up on a bunch of stuff. I hadn't even really gotten through all of 86 at that point. So it presented a problem with I could stream, sure, I would be off in time to do it. It's just I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Being at work so much has also, affected my ability to make videos and all that. So oopsie doodle. And beyond that, it's basically just not having the energy to do a lot of things and wanting to just go to bed and crash after a lot of the stuff that we were doing. Fortunately, though, now we are on to a bit less of a pain in the ass job. So bathroom remodels and such. So I should be able to get back into my normal swing of things. Hopefully, we will be able to, have our stream next Saturday doing the chat open mic night. It's going to be weird because we have a fictionology. This is going to be a weird week for me. It's going to be fictionology on Wednesday and then open mic night on Saturday. So that's going to be a thing. But you're probably sitting here wondering, when are we going to get to any actual anime talk or whatever? Well, it's about that time. And we're going to start by pulling up some trailers and shit. So, let's go here. Talk about this. So this is the first one of the night, and this is Kusunoki's Garden of Gods. And this is a TV anime trailer coming out this spring. And now, at first, I kind of thought this one looked like a knockoff of like Campfire Cooking in Another World. So I was just kind of going to ignore it. But I think this trailer has changed my mind a little bit somewhat. So we're going to get into this and hopefully, see some good stuff out of this.
初めてそれが見えたのは俺が5歳の時だった神様じゃあ山上さんです
So far, it doesn't look like there's anything like particularly special about it, but it at least seems like it's not like the worst thing ever created. So I at least want to give it a try.
なんですね
お主のおかげで助かった礼を言うぞ
Basically, just a fancier version of Fell. Kind of checks out. Also, I apologize if you hear anything. Like I said, I have my windows open because it's going to get hot in here if I don't have them open.
礼を言うぞ
この辺りが住みやすくなったって聞いたから来てみたのさ
That, not so much a fan of. Those designs seem fairly generic, fairly unimpressive.
ほんと居心地が良くなったわね
There's a little bit of like the Kirin stuff and all these other things going on. I'm not exactly like impressed with a lot of the designs that they have for stuff, but again, I can't say that it's necessarily horrible. It isn't like Dragon Hatchling levels of bad design.
先日悪霊を払ったのは君の力だろうお主の書いた文字が
Yeah, it looks like kind of the same thing that they got going on for Campfire Cooking here, is you just have the giant spirit wolf creature drooling over food the whole time.
汚れを払っておるのだ
ただの買い物メモなんですけど
買い物メモ我々陰陽師が束になってもかなわない悪霊がいるその地へ赴いて
That's hardly the worst like scenery work that I've seen for a trailer. It actually does look kind of like interesting. If this was just, like a still image that someone painted, I'd be fairly impressed with that.
赴いて払ってほしい
俺にできることならあなたは無限僕の
Yeah, I still don't find myself super impressed with everything that's going on here. But this does, again, seem like one of those more like, I don't know, a slice of life chill series that you would see out of a season. Probably one of those ones that's going to be like a 6 or a 7 going forward.
僕の力を貸してあげるよ次は私の力も授けちゃう
よせこれ以上与え
Oh, it also looks like this guy has powers of his own, so that's going to be interesting.
これ以上与えれば港は人でいられなくなってしまう君には見えているんだろうこの
And the animation hasn't looked too bad so far. It looks like they're actually putting in a little bit of effort to make this work.
家に住む神々や霊獣が
俺は山上さんと一緒にいていいのかな
我も自らの意志でここにいるそれだけだ
テレビアニメ神の庭付きクスノキ亭
Yeah, it definitely looks like one of those ones that's going to be like a 6 or a 7. going forward. I don't necessarily expect to be super impressed with it, but it's at least looking a little bit more enjoyable than I think I initially gave it credit for. Next up, I kind of have already decided that I don't really want to watch this one, but maybe for friends' sake, I will check it out. But this is Liar's Game. This is also coming out for the spring season. And again, it doesn't necessarily strike my fancy, but I want to give a couple of things a shot for friends. So just so we have a couple of things to talk about or whatever, or like have some overlap, get out of my comfort zone, give some things a shot. And I'm not a huge fan of like the death game stuff, but I know that Arceus Rules is, and potentially we get something good out of this. This is one of the ones that I've heard people kind of talk about, and I've seen this trailer circulated quite a bit for some reason.
馬鹿正直のなお、私はよく人からそう呼ばれた。
100円拾った？
Don't necessarily have a problem with the art style itself or the way it looks. It doesn't look horrible or generic or anything, I guess.
今時珍しく真っ正直な子だね。お届け物です。
あなたはこの度見事ライアーゲームトーナメントにエントリーされました。
At the same time, I don't necessarily have any complaints. And it's not necessarily like anything in here has stood out so far, but it's been 20 seconds. So I guess I should give it a more of a fair shake before I really make a judgment on it.
なんなのライアーゲームって。
この馬鹿げたゲームから脱出する方法を見つけるのに全力を注ぐんだ。
秋山さん。
皆さんには1億円をお渡しします。
He looks like, I don't know. He looks like a weird version of Light Yagami, is what he looks like. That's all I can think of, and it's literally just the eyes. It is the eyes.
これを22名のプレイヤーで取り合ってもらい。
Interesting. Gee, I wonder who's going to be a major character. Generic. Yeah, this guy looks like he has that potential, like, long-standing character energy going.
取り合ってもらいます。
どうして私なの。
常に敵を監視すること。
わからないわか。
So I guess we're just getting an outline of a bunch of minority rule, downsizing, smuggler.
どうすれば。
心配するな。策はある。
The pinnacle of psychological battles now as a TV anime. I don't know. That seems like a pretty bold assertion to make.
最悪のシナリオで動いている可能性が高い。
まさか。
これはライアーゲーム。
Interesting. I kind of like the music though. I'll give it that.
騙し合いのゲームじゃないか。
I think I've watched one of these trailers before, and this trailer has made this anime look a little bit more interesting than the last one I watched. Now that I think about it, I do kind of remember watching something about this.
正直じゃいけませんか。
人を疑うとはその人間を知ろうとする行為なんだ。
ライアーゲームに本気で参戦し。
Can't really say I've been a fan of like many of like the designs and stuff, or just like the way that this is all, like all the people are drawn, but overall not really the biggest thing.
騙して何が悪い？騙し合いのゲームだろ。
救いたいだけ
So, yeah, I think my earlier assessment about this might still be true. I don't know if I necessarily want to watch this one. Who knows? Maybe if a bunch of people out there are actually going to be watching this, like people who hang out around here are going to be watching this, I'll give it a shot. But I'm not particularly invested in anything that is going on with this one. The Death Games thing, or just like these sorts of anime, hasn't necessarily been like a huge point of interest for me. So I find it really hard to get into some of these. All right. Moving on though, we do have a like, I don't know, Inuyasha proxy anime to check out. There's so much to watch this season. Can't say that the trailer sold me. Correct. So let's bring this up. So apparently this is new classic shoujo isekai TV anime announced from far away Kanatakara. And now this is directed by the guy who did Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, so that'll be interesting. And it's based on a shoujo from the 1990s about a girl transported to a fantasy world and her encounter with a stoic swordsman. Definitely, like, this does look like, you know, old school, I guess, moe art style. Interesting. So this is really just like going through the manga and not actually giving us any anime shots. That's a little bit unfortunate. But at the very least, I can't say I've been disappointed with how it's drawn or anything for the manga. Definitely looks like it's out of the 90s, though. It does live up to that part. And hey, we got dudes flying pterodactyls or some shit, like dragons or whatever. So I guess we're gonna... Shoujo is batting 500 for me. The ones I like, I tend to really like. I kind of feel the same way, except for I think the average for me is probably a lot lower. This, though, kind of looks interesting. I kind of want to give it a shot. It says it's going to be coming out this year, so at the very least, I could give it that. But I don't think that one in particular... or that trailer in particular has really given me a good feel for what's going on with this. It's just sort of like showing the art style, not really giving us any much more than it's isekai and it's shoujo. Hard to make an assessment on just that, but I guess, like I said, when there's a good shoujo, I end up actually really, really enjoying it. But they tend to be fewer and more far between than a lot of other things that I end up actually liking. The fact that it's isekai, I guess, is probably a point in its favor for me because I do tend to enjoy isekai. So yeah, not really much to say on that one. Was kind of disappointed that we didn't get any actual like anime footage for that. Anyway, we do have another trailer to go over, and this is We Are Aliens. Now, this is apparently a movie that's going to be coming out sometime in 2026. It's definitely an interesting art style and animation style. Visually unique. Can't say it's really giving me a feel for what this movie is going to be about, but it's a good looking frog at least. Oh, is this going to be like 100 meters? Is this going to look like 100 meters as they're like actually moving and stuff? Because that's pretty crazy the way that all looks. What the hell was all that about? This definitely gives me the vibe of something far more artsy than what I was expecting. Like, it seems very dedicated to this specific style of animating and drawing things. So it in just the way it's presenting itself so far feels like it's one of those more artsy fartsy pieces that's a little bit more about someone like actually making a story about something rather than like making a series of events. A little bit more, I don't know, allegorical, metaphorical. I'm kind of wondering what's going to go on with this. Honestly, when you had like the music cut out and they just like ran into him in the alley there and you spilled that whole bag of leaves or whatever, I was waiting for it to turn into some like weird like sci-fi horror thing there. Interesting. At the very least, it does look really good. I would want to see a little bit more of the animation because some of the stuff that they do in there looks like it's, I don't know, mo-capped. The same way that 100 meters was, and I thought the animation for 100 meters was brutal to watch. Not that I necessarily had a problem with the art style of 100 meters, but the animation was in and of itself kind of hard to watch because it felt so uncanny valley. There are a few moments in there that give me the same vibe, that uncanny valley stuff. Like I pointed out with the rounding the corner, running into the kid while he's sitting there scooping up leaves and throwing them in a trash bag. That looked out of the ordinary to me. Another one that looks out of the ordinary to me, though, and seems like it could be at least somewhat interesting, is this new movie that's going to be coming out next year called Cherry and Virgin. I'm not shitting you. This one definitely has a unique visuals. It definitely looks very, very singular. And it gets really weird the more you watch it. Like, just in that, there's been a ton of different art styles and a ton of ways of portraying things, which makes it look somewhat interesting to me. But even just that, like, it looks like it's really emphasizing like the comedy aspects or like the sillier things that are going on here. Like there's a lot of different styles in here, and from what I understand, if I'm not mistaken, this one is basically about like two Arrow manga artists. So like I'm pretty sure one of them draws like BL stuff, and the other one just draws like straight up erotica. But throughout this whole thing, like the way that different parts of it are portrayed and all that is very interesting to me. And it looks like there you go for you fan service enjoyers out there. That one is for you. You are welcome. Guess that's it. Wow. Okay. Not really sure what to think about it, but I'm gonna go through. It's a romance story between an Arrow artist and a BL artist, and it's being animated by an IRL Arrow artist and BL artist. It looks like it's both their world perspectives animated differently, and it comes together when they are together. It seems like a great story of love story type anime. Oh, this is I thought this was a movie. Apparently, this is they're just saying that this is an anime. Huh. Potentially interesting. And of course, we do have one more trailer before we move on to talking about manga and everything. So, we're going to move on to that. And because it came up, I do have to talk about it. So here we go. Greatest company in the world, Bandai Namco. I'm kidding. But apparently Bandai Namco has something to do with this anime. So I'll let you guys figure out what the hell is going on here as we watch the trailer. I mean, the animation for this part looks good. If that's not a dead giveaway, it's the 100 Girlfriends. And now it's on the PV for this. I think they did show some of the other characters who will be introduced in this season. But right now in this group, there's only one new one. Maybe not. Because there's Mimimi. Oh, maybe they do have Natty. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we have Natty over here and Chio over here. Just the fucking constant smug look on her face is always hilarious. Yep. Okay, so I was wrong. They definitely do have both the new girls in this shot.
もしも私たちもみんなでステージに立ちたい
I'm pretty sure this whole trailer is based on like 2 or 3 chapters from the manga. Like they're giving this whole like small little like idol thing like an entire dedicated trailer. And it's not even like it's that major of an arc.
ティーチャーだってアイドルなれるドリームはフリーダム。
みんなならきっといや絶対最高のステージに。
I will say though, y'all aren't prepared for the craziness that is
最高のステージになる。
gratuitous American slang.
レンタロウファミリー頑張るぞ。
I'm just really so this looks like it says July of 2026. So is this going to be a okay. So yeah, it's going to be a summer anime. Sweet. Okay, so now I have a reason to really look forward to summer. I believe summer is Mushoku Tensei and this. Alrighty, bring it on. And that's pretty much it. It's literally just a trailer dedicated to the whole idol thing. So that'll be at the very least its own sort of entertaining thing. But I'm more so just interested in the broader happenings of the series. So of all those trailers that I showed there, obviously 100 Girlfriends is going to be the one that I'm like most interested in because I love that manga. I think it's fucking hilarious. And just outlandish and fun. But I guess Cherry and Virgin is the other one that really stood out to me, just for like artistic value and everything. All the other ones were just kind of like, okay, maybes, like mildly interesting. The shoujo one, that was actually a good one. Although it didn't really show anything for the anime. So those are the real 3 out of that batch that really did like strike me as somewhat interesting. But that is all the trailers that I have. Unfortunately, not much is coming out as far as trailers, even with, the new season coming up, because a lot of those trailers have already aired or we've already covered them as they've come out. So we are now going to move on into talking about manga. Holy shit, it's already been 30 minutes. I've already been streaming for half an hour. Okay. This is going to be a long one. My 100 daughters all date the same guy. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about 100 Girlfriends as we get into the manga release that happened this month. But for now, we're going to start it off with some D-Gen manga. Some real D-Gen manga. So, didn't get to talk about this last week outside of being on Vagabundo's show and just mentally flashbanging people with this. But the first entry of the night that I do have to talk about is called Monster Marriage Shop. And I do not recommend this one, but let me give you the rundown on this. This is an ecchi manga. And the premise is that our main character here, who is very prominently featured in the background here, he is a professional matchmaker. So he works for like a matchmaking company. Apparently there's only 4 volumes of this series. Not a lot of people liked it. So he works as a professional matchmaker. And he has issues. And I'm not kidding you when I say he has issues. So basically his dad died when he was really young, and he pretty much grew up like listening to his mother's bedroom antics as she would bring home like a new guy like every week. and she had terrible taste in men. So he develops a really really weird obsession with his own mother. In like the opening chapters of this dude's literally like checking like boxes for things he likes. It's literally just like NTR, gangbang, mother, incest. It's insane. This one is genuinely, without a doubt, insane. And after that, it was like morbid curiosity. I had to at least read through the rest of it, and it really, really doesn't get any better. Basically, he ends up in this like section of town that's like a secret section of the place he lives, and it's all monster girls. So it's like werewolves, vampires, beastmen, all that kind of stuff. And this girl featured here, she is the werewolf. And if you're wondering, she has more than 2 nipples because that was a necessary detail. But basically, she hires this guy as like another business venture of hers because apparently she's fucking rich. To like set up a matchmaking agency. Inside this like secret area of town that's like the monster it's Monster Town, and he continually rejects every woman who makes an advance on him. The vampire, the werewolf who's constantly going into heat, and the succubus who is just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do succubus stuff. And yes, this is the one with the cursed fetish bingo card. This is the one with the cursed fetish bingo card. And he turns every woman who like makes advances on him down with the excuse of, I'm only interested in my mother. It's fucking wild, and I do not recommend it. Professional matchmaker Yuto Nakao has helped scores of people find their perfect match, but as a hopeless mama's boy. That's mama's boy. Oh, fuck. He's never had a professional relationship of his own. Everything changes the night he stumbles upon Monster Town, a hidden enclave bustling with sexy supernatural singles. From a werewolf bachelorette to an irresistible succubus, many beauties struggle with finding love. Yuto decides that this is the perfect place to set up shop and maybe even find action for himself, except for there's one major problem. Local matchmaker and god of love Cupid doesn't appreciate a mortal showing him up on the job. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like raunchiness, it's definitely up there. But in terms of actually like being a good series or whatever, it is not. Like this is, I gave it a 4 for 1 volume and dropped it. I was done after that. I most definitely do not recommend this series. All right. Let's move on a little bit to a different manga to talk about, and this one's a little bit less lewd and a little bit more slop isekai. So who here likes slop isekai? Raise your hand. Because this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So, this is a series that I'd had on hold for a while because they didn't release volume 3, in spite of the fact they released a bunch of other volumes. But basically, this is let's buy the land and cultivate it in a different world. And as for the basic premise here, we have our synopsis. So, as a humble office worker, Norio Itonami is suddenly summoned to another world. It looks as if he'll be sent in to a battlefield. However, he has no skills to speak of and is deemed to be useless. He negotiates with the king and receives a plot of land, an empty, deserted plot of land with no inhabitants in sight. Norio holds something he couldn't bring himself to tell anyone, the Master of Supremacy, or Supreme Wielder, as it's called as you read the English version of the manga, a gift which grants him the most comfortable of lives in this world. So basically, as this guy's getting summoned to another world, the god of craft work blesses him with this ability that whenever like whatever tool he uses, he is like a complete master of using. So like he picks up a knife or whatever, or so he like starts like blacksmithing something, he's automatically a good blacksmith. Or like if he starts, working on a farm or whatever, he's automatically a good farmer with whatever tools he's got. And from there, it's basically just like, I don't know, a low grade world, nation building sort of thing as this dude like makes his farmstead and like people keep fucking showing up and like crashing his pad. So first it's just a mermaid princess who you can, see here. Platy. She can, be there. Then he finds out that he's, neighbors with a lich who just kind of, like decides that they're going to be friends. And then a dragon, orcs, goblins, other monsters to have like pet dogs, kind of like farming life in another world. They're just like dangerous wild wolves, but they act like, puppies. Who else? Oh, the Demon Lord, a group of elven thieves, all that kind of stuff. It really is like slop. Like I'm not gonna sing high praises of this series, but if you really, really, really love isekai and you're just itching for something dumb to sit there and read, it's not half bad. Like it's not the worst thing that you could go find. Damn it, I guess I never added this one to my isekai tier list when I was making that video. I should have. But I don't think I did. Oh well. That's a video that'll come out sometime in the near future, in the next couple of weeks. But that's a big one that I gotta work on. Anyway, art style is really nothing special. It's a little bit more on the comedic side. Doesn't really try to take itself too seriously. Things are really ridiculous and over the top, and generally tend to just work out in the main character's favor. It doesn't really have any ecchi or anything to offer you. It is all in all the kind of like, I don't know, C-tier isekai that you would expect out of something that's literally called Let's Buy the Land and Cultivate It. Not exactly high on my recommendations list, but it's also not one that I'm going to drop. A 6 is probably about appropriate for it. The next one, though, definitely does have the titties, if that's what you're looking for. So, we're going to talk about my favorite doujin turned rom-com harem manga. Imaizumi brings all the gals to his house. And another volume of this came out. There are 5 volumes so far, and it's gotten to the point where like all of these girls are basically competing now to like be this dude's main girlfriend. And for the most part, like they're actually like working on the plot and everything and making him seem less and less of a pathetic character. So 7.53 feels a little bit pretty appropriate in terms of rating. Because again, it doesn't necessarily like distinguish itself outside of the fact that all of the doujins for this series are absolutely canon, and they actually slot into the stories, and you can kind of tell where like they pick up. There's also a couple of things going on with like the main character's mom and everything. Like she's convinced that like one of these girls is his girlfriend, the I guess gray-haired chick here. Like she's convinced that guy that this chick is his girlfriend, and the other two are just her friends. Yes, actually, I wasn't kidding when I put in the NSFW chat for that Discord. About how like there legitimately is you can search for an anime, a doujin, or a manga if you type this name in. If you type in Imaizumi brings all the gals to his house, you'll come up with Oh, there's a non-age version of this. Yeah, sorry. I misread that. You know what? I'm going to blame the alcohol for that one. Yeah. It's an ecchi series, so there's still titties in it. Like these girls are still, running around with their usual bullshit going on. But all of the parts where they're, actively fucking and everything, those are for the dojins. And of course, this all, like I said, this all plays in around the actual dojins. So it's pretty funny that both parts of it are canon. So there you go. Like, I'm actually surprised they just incorporated both parts of this. But this is again one where I think it's actually fairly interesting. Just the background of this series in and of itself is noteworthy, in the fact that it's just is there any wow, it's either recommend or don't recommend. There's no mixed feelings. So yeah, if you're actually looking for something ecchi or whatever to read, I would recommend this one. Next on the list is another rom-com, but not necessarily an ecchi one, and this is one that I actually think is fairly endearing. So let's go over to My Tiny Senpai. Now, this actually has an anime out that you can go check out. But I've been seeing this around. It keeps getting recommended to me by my search algorithms. So I figured, you know what? I'll give it a shot and I'll see how good it is. And I actually find that as far as this one goes, I'm fairly happy with it. Basically, this is our main character and his Shinozaki and his senpai Katase. They're basically just co-workers and everything, except for she's really short and always teasing him. And he's constantly sitting there she's making comments about I'm gonna bully you by paying for your lunch, and he's like, by all means, bully away. And they both clearly have a thing for each other, but they're kind of dancing around it. So their coworkers are actively trying to push them into a relationship. The manager has been basically stalking them, trying to do everything he can to try and push them together, because he's just sort of sick of nothing fucking happening between the two of them. As far as art style goes, I won't say that it is particularly striking, but they do have a good sense of using variations in character design for comedic timing. Basically, they will often draw Katase with cat ears and with a smug cat-like face whenever she's up to stuff. They are very exaggerated with their expressions. All in all, I actually think it's a pretty funny manga. So if you're looking for just a sort of good rom-com manga to pick up, or even if you just want to go watch the anime, I would actually, just based off of that, recommend giving it a shot. It's a decent chill series from everything that I've read so far. All right, let's move along into some of the more prominent series that I have to talk about tonight. So this is going to bring us around to the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. They released a new volume of this. So if you're not into spoilers, I guess, I will try for your sake to keep it pretty tame as to what's going on with this one, but I won't give too many spoilers. I'm just kind of gonna go over exactly what happens. Well, not exactly what happens, generally what happens. That's a better way to put it. So this volume entails some very interesting things going on here. One of them being, we actually get to meet Karane's family. this time around. So we've met a couple of the families before. But in this volume, in volume 17, we get to meet Karane's family, and it is pretty much what you would expect. Then there is, let me think, I got this. The whole thing where like all of the girls are basically just imagining what it would be like to be married and all of that. And then we get another body swapping chapter. So there's that. All in all, like this series is like consistently like goofy and fun one that I think is like genuinely worth reading for and watching. And I'm always sort of like happy with some of the, we also get a new girl in this one. I forgot about that. I forget her name, but we do get the new character. I guess we don't have her there. Either way, do 100% approve of reading this series. I do think it is absolutely worth it. It is basically the Konosuba of like romance anime as just like a genre. It is a parody of all of the romance tropes, but it also happens to be just a really, really good romance in general. So, yeah, if you're not caught up on this series, or at least if you're just like anime only, look forward to some really fun stuff. Like there is plenty in store for this one, and I'm pretty happy with what we got out of the latest batch. I actually really liked the new girl that they introduced and everything that they did with her. They've been introducing a lot more of the adult women in this one lately. That being said, how many of you out there have heard of Defrag? How many of you out there are deep into Defrag like I am? So, I watched this anime a while ago, and I really thought that Defrag was great. I'm surprised that this is a seinen too. Like that's interesting to me. But yeah, there are 19 volumes of this out, and it very rarely releases more than one volume a year, which is kind of like a huge like point of sadness for me. But at the very least, it's still going. So cool. But yeah, this latest volume was it was just about as great as you would expect. It is we have a new girl who has been introduced to the cast, who is now a permanent member, and she's been like a part of the story for a little while now, but they've actually just had her transfer schools to be a part of like the actual main cast and everything, and she is funny to say the least. She's a nut, and I like it. And otherwise it gives you, all the stereotypical fucking shenanigans that you would expect out of a series like that. I'm kind of curious, what are the stats on this? Like 8 is generally like the most agreed upon part of this. That seems about right. Like this is actually like an 8 out of 10 manga. Like didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Let's see. We had the whole like Forbidden Forest thing going on. There was that. Getting the chick getting expelled from the all girls school. Oh, and then we have the weird alien shit that happens at the very end of the volume. Like this one is just so out of pocket. Like eel spirits, meteorites, aliens. Like there's just so much ridiculous shit that happens in this. It is like a more insane version of Dandadan. Wow, this thing has been going for like 12 years. Dang. Either way, great series. If you're looking for a solid comedy anime / manga, definitely check out Defrag. It is definitely worth it. It didn't disappoint. All right, though. Defrag is still going. Unfortunately, the next one, well, I should probably say fortunately / unfortunately, this next one is not still going. It is finally wrapped up. After 37 volumes and 500 chapters, Komi Can't Communicate has come to an end. And I will say that there was a stretch in the middle of this that honestly is probably pretty weak. But overall, this series does deserve that 8 out of 10 rating. Like, it starts strong, has a really good run. The art style is great. A lot of the humor is really fun. I enjoy more and more the jokes that they make out of like the characters' names, like Najimi Osana basically being like a different, an inverted way of saying childhood friend. As far as the way it ends, like, I liked it. I was fairly satisfied with it, but I would have liked to see a little bit more. But I got out of it effectively what I really, really wanted. It was just a good, entertaining series, very wholesome, very fun. Art style is great. If you're looking for like an extended read or whatever, this is one that I would actually recommend. Just like now that it's done, binging all the way through, it's worth it. It is 37 volumes, so it's a bit of a chonky one. I'm sitting here like, who's publishing this? Viz Media. I doubt it'll ever get any like box releases, but if you see like boxes for this, one, notify me because I would definitely get a box set for this. Two, I would actually recommend, just going for it because it's genuinely a good read. Like I said, it does have its weaknesses. You get into a little bit of a weird love triangle thing as you get closer to the middle of the series. And as they transition into like sort of like the end of everything, you do get some weird, like not so entertaining volumes in there. But as you sort of like get closer and closer to the end, things get really, really good. You get a lot of great character interaction. You get some stuff like specifically focusing on Komi and Tadano. Genuinely, like, I think this is a series that deserves more in terms of like anime. I know that like it came out with, I don't know what, 1 season or 2 seasons. It didn't do everything, and it just hasn't been renewed since it was announced a while back. And honestly, I feel like I do need to go and actually watch this anime. I haven't actually watched the anime version of this. Like, I watched a couple of episodes, but at the time I was burning myself out on a lot of things. So I think I might have just like pigeonholed this one. Either way, manga form, though, I have really, really enjoyed it. I've been keeping up with this for a while. Sad to see it go, but glad it ended on a high note. So, all in all, Komi's been good. All right. Now we get to the one that chat wanted me to catch up on. And I'm still working on it, but I have at least gotten through my physical volume collection. Love the first core. Second core wasn't as well animated. Aw. Unfortunate. Anyway, let's move on from the romance and let's talk about Chojin X. Now this one has actually been really good. So I, over the weekend here, have gotten about this far in. I am on volume 5 of Chojin X. I was actually finishing this up as I was joining into the Rolo Rome cast. So while they were trying to sort out some technical difficulties and stuff, I was sitting there finishing out the last little bit of volume 5 of Chojin X. And as you can see here, I have given this a 9 on my anime list because I think it genuinely deserves it. Like 5 or 7.58 is fucking unfair. And now, for those of you who are completely unaware, basically, Chojin X is about a guy named Tokyo Kurohara, and he basically is just kind of a slacker who doesn't do things too seriously, not really invested in a lot. Well, he ends up getting himself into a little bit of trouble here and there, and finds out that he in an act of desperation, basically injects himself with a serum that turns him into a Chojin. Now that's basically just a superhuman, but Chojins generally take on a form related to an obsession that they have. And the main character takes on the form of a vulture. A weird obsession, but it makes sense once you start reading the series and kind of figure out who he is as a character and all that. So basically, he can transform into he's technically what's called a beast Chojin. So he has this sort of animalistic transformation. But being a Chojin gives him super strength, regenerative abilities, all that kind of stuff. And that of course puts him on the radar of several people. One being the local, Chojin guardian of the region, who is basically tasked with keeping everything in line. And others are not so nice factions. I don't want to spoil too much on this one because there's a lot of crazy stuff, but I will say that insofar as Sui Ishida's artwork goes, it's really, really good. And the depiction, if you're a fan of Tokyo Ghoul, or if you're familiar, this is very similar in certain aspects. The way he depicts Queen, the War Chojin, is really unnerving, but very fitting. The storytelling for this one has been more so feeling a kind of mature and more grim My Hero Academia. Rolling new with the member message. Going to be starting it soon. You should. I'm about to start catching up via digitals because I'm going to read it a whole lot more a whole lot more quickly that way. But also, thank you for the member message for 5 months. Just a reminder, guys, if you haven't watched Uncle from Another World, it's a good isekai. But yeah, Chojin X, really fucking good. Wasn't a huge fan of it when I read the first 2 volumes. I think I had it at a 6 or a 7. And then as we transitioned into volume 3, 4, and 5, and maybe this is just a placebo thing. Maybe it was I stepped away from it and didn't think about it too much and came back to it and liked it a whole lot more because I was a little bit distanced from all of the hype that people have been putting behind it. But as we've gotten into a lot of the prophecy stuff, the Mark of the Beast shit, there's a ton of really interesting lore that gets dropped throughout all of this, and I'm actually pretty hooked on this one. The only thing I will deride it for is the art's really, really good. But again, when you're talking about art, it always ends up in my mind being compared to like Studio Gaga for Berserk. And the art in this one is significantly rougher than what Studio Gaga was doing for Berserk. Not that I hate that. I actually kind of like the hand-drawn feel of it, but it just doesn't necessarily like tick off all the boxes. Ishida's probably one of the best active mangaka out there right now, if you ask me. Just for like art style and everything. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to deride his artwork. But oh Jesus. Roman says he is your daddy. No, he ain't. He definitely ain't. But anyway, thank you for the member message. Y'all are all hanging out in there, huh? Anyway, so this has been a really good read. One that I'm looking forward to getting into more. And I will say that like the volumes for this, they're nice and thick. Like there's a lot of good stuff here. Let's see. I think this is actually a really good example of Ishida's art style. Like you can really tell like that there's a level of uniqueness to this that's just it really does stand out. So yeah, it's good. Don't have any complaints about it anymore. So let us move on to the last piece of literary discussion that we have for the night, and this involves something that we're going to be going over for Fictionology. Let's talk a little bit more about Mushoku Tensei. Ooh, okay, I have been loving this series. And it's kind of been like really nice to go through the audiobooks for this and just listen to this one. And hear all of the content that got cut out from like season 1. I am now on into season 2. Roland new for $9.99. $9.99. It just sends a couple of emojis. It sends me some finger guns. I appreciate that, man. All right. So yeah. Mushoku Tensei, the read has been really, really good. It gives you a whole lot more detail on the series, and I especially like the part now that I'm kind of into like the beginning of season 2 here. We're just getting to the part where Rudius goes off to the Renoa Academy of Magic. And you had the whole part at the end of the last volume, I believe it was volume 7, where you have like Sarah making all her comments about like her misunderstandings there. You have Elena Elise finally just now tracking Rudius down. And that's been a very interesting interaction. No, I mustn't. I don't want to become Paul's daughter. Bro, this series is fucking great. And I will say, I really enjoyed the content for season 1 that had Ruijerd as a character. In the novels, they do a whole lot more to elaborate on like his morals, like everything that he thinks and believes, like his whole like child versus warrior mentality. Or sorry, I should say worldview. I feel like there are certain things. So there are certain things that the anime does actually really, really improve on. I like the improvements that the anime made to the end of, I guess, Turning Point 2. Not necessarily Turning Point 2, because that is the encounter with that guy. If you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But more so, like in the anime, when Rudius is like in Fitoa and he's all alone, there's a whole lot more like self-reflection. It really like sinks you deep into his depression in that moment. In the and that's how the anime does it. In the books, it really just kind of skims over. It doesn't make a big stink out of it. It literally like the scenes of him in the anime where he is just like laying there basically rotting in bed, they don't exist in the books. There are certain improvements like that I do really, really like. The first person narration for the books definitely does paint Rudius in a little bit of a different light than the anime does. I think the anime is probably a little bit kinder to him than the books are. But at the same time, the anime also excludes certain information that really does help clarify who he is as a character. All in all, it's a series where I think, like, if you just watch the anime, cool. But if you're really, like, interested in the series, you absolutely should, like, read or listen to it. In terms of tone, though, let me think. I feel like the way it speaks about things is generally pretty much the same. Because they both kind of take on like the narration of Rudius as a character. They both kind of approach things from that point of view. So generally, you are getting that sort of biased first person sense of narration. I don't necessarily think it betrays that. It also does, like I said, there are certain points where it legitimately does improve things. But I'm also really sad to not see a lot of the bonus chapters or surrounding Ariel and Fitz that like build up to what feels like a major confrontation within Asura Kingdom. So yeah, definitely worth a shot. I think the books have an overall lighter or more comedic tone. Not that it's played for laughs. With the anime, I feel like carries a darker tone, but it's much more consistent than the books. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one yet. I guess it's going to take me rewatching the anime to really get a full comparison. So that's going to have to be something that gets done soon. Or at least this year. But aside from just sitting here commenting on, I'm really enjoying how they've like elaborated on a lot of the things that happen in season 2 so far within the books. I don't have much else as far as commentary. So we are going to move on to one of the big name topics for the night. It is time to talk about 86. The titular anime for the stream, the one that was nominated by Jeremy Turner. And one that's pretty well regarded within the anime community. So, what did I think of 86? Wrong thing. Sorry, you weren't supposed to see that. This is what you were supposed to see. Uh-oh. Don't tell me I'm glitching. Maybe it's just... I think I'm still... All right. Let's just go for it. So this is what I think of 86. I actually really, really enjoyed this one. And I was very happy with what I got out of it. There are, of course, the obvious comparisons that you could make between this and Attack on Titan. And I'll get to some of those thoughts in a little bit. But basically, for those of you who are unaware, you are thrown into a world that's kind of at war with like these rampant machines. And the 86 are basically members of a district within, I forget exactly what the name of the country was, but basically you have this country that is segregated based on people who have, like the silver hair and like steel gray eyes versus everyone else who doesn't. And the people, the silver hair people, they're like, the rulers. They are like the true humans. Everyone else is considered less than human. So they are, expendable fodder who are sent out to go fight the machines so that the government can claim there are no human casualties because the people who are dying aren't actually human. So here we go. 86 is what surface level reading Neanderthals would call woke. It kicks off in a racially segregated society in which a specific class of people, determined by outward appearance, dominate, while anyone who doesn't fit that biological niche isn't considered human. But I assure you, dear reader, that it most definitely is not woke. This is one of the funny things that I've actually seen a couple of comments on is like people on the right, like kind of like alluding to the fact that this is woke because it kind of broaches the topic of racism or like some sort of racial or genetic hierarchy. But this isn't necessarily foreign to storytelling, and you can cover topics like this without being woke. Woke invokes some sort of like preachiness or relation to modern day events. The way 86 goes about things is far more broad and less grating. In reality, 86 is what you get when you make a Attack on Titan without the brain-melting nihilism of the final few moments of the series. One where hope of a better future actually stays intact. One that doesn't rely on its main character's stupidity to create a narrative dead end that results in betraying the preceding parts of the story. Basically, 86 is what would have happened if Isayama had allowed for there to be another way out of the situation that the Eldians found themselves in. And that's really what I liked about this is the way this one ends. I know it's not necessarily a complete adaptation of the source material, but the way that this story ends really does present quite a bit of hope just for this world in general. And it continues to drive home that there is actually a chance that things continue to improve. There is actually that light at the end of the tunnel. Our main girl, Lena, is one of the few people who's actually like actively fighting for the rights of the 86. Like someone who believes that they are not like less than human. She genuinely believes that like everyone is on equal standing in spite of the fact that her society and the people who basically, raised her as she has grown up along, do not consider these soldiers who are risking their lives for this country to be human. That in and of itself is a pretty compelling part of the story. And it really does do a good job of, covering, the horrors of war, the brutality of human nature, and the story of a man haunted by the ghosts of all his fallen comrades. Like, there are a lot of different facets of this one that you can genuinely dissect. And this is just, it's a good story all around. I honestly think that the world is built up like really fantastically in this one. It looks like this pristine and calm place at first. And then you do get introduced to the greater war that's raging on around like this small little safe zone. So it does kind of emulate that feeling you get from Attack on Titan. And then later still, you're slowly introduced to the more unsavory pieces of information that make it all that much more compelling. Like you start learning more about the Legion, you start learning more about how the 86 view things, you start to learn more about the actual like history of what's been going on with all these people. And all of it really just sort of builds more and more into this war narrative that it's been creating. So, I mean, in addition to all that, you have this really good dynamic between the two major characters, Shine and Vladilena. Sorry, I had to take a section there, take a minute there to make sure I pronounce that correctly. And these are the two characters that really do a good job of showing the dichotomy in this society. You have Shine as this sort of hopeless husk of a man who's just sort of dragging himself along for no real reason that he can comprehend. Meanwhile, Lena is like this optimistic, albeit naive, very privileged girl. And since they come from like completely different ends of the societal spectrum, it does really show you how things are perceived differently by both of them. And I really like that the first couple of parts of the series are basically like rehashing the same thing. Once from the side of Shine in the 86, and then once from the side of Vladilena and the Selena. Like you get her perspective of it, where she's kind of like sitting there, like doing what she thinks is right, sort of like trying to fight for their rights and like their position as human beings, and like genuinely being empathetic towards them and trying to keep them alive and like trying to like make sure that they don't become casualties of the war. Meanwhile, you have like the 86 who are sort of like disillusioned with everything, who don't trust, who are very standoffish towards her. And like you can see how her words are perceived differently by those people. And it does a really good job of presenting how those perceptions are validated within this dynamic. Like it really, like part one, I think, of season one here is probably like my more preferred part. Part two is better, particularly closer to the end. Part two is different quite a bit, but it ultimately does tie into a lot of things, and it helps a lot with Shine's character. But yeah, they since the characters really only have like communications through some long distance calls, it helps reinforce that there is this divide between the two of them. That Vladilena can't really like fully comprehend what it is that the 86 are living through. And it really does make an interesting setup. By contrasting the experience of the downtrodden 86 and the privileged Selena, which are basically the people with the silver hair. And yeah, that segregation theme is a pretty big part of that first act of the story. So I can understand why some people might like on the surface look at it and be like, "Oh, this is fucking woke." There's still a ton more to this show that definitely doesn't make it woke. Especially because it gears more towards, I don't want to say a kinder resolution, but it is not blunt the way that woke would be. So the second season really does focus a lot on like the reason to live part of it. With Shine and his tendency to basically disregard his own life in spite of the constant efforts of everyone around him to try and keep him alive. There's this whole thing where like once Shine is able to finally put his brother to rest, and you'll understand that if you watch the show, I will leave all of that for you to discover. He doesn't really have a reason to continue going on, so he's just sort of like reckless, throwing his life out there. And like there are a bunch of really good moments in here where people are like trying to hammer it into him, like everyone like you are a survivor, you should be proud of that. You shouldn't feel guilty, you shouldn't feel like this is like some weight around your neck. You should genuinely like continue to strive to continue to live. You should genuinely make it your like purpose to survive every battle, to keep going, to keep pressing on. So the second season does present a lot of that. It really does focus on that. So it can feel a little bit like a break from what the first part of the series was, especially because Vladilena is not a major part of part two of season one. But it all does tie together really, really well in the end. So all in all, on a surface level, like it gives you a really good sci-fi war story about tank pilots fighting a swarm of machines bent on destroying humanity. But it's also one of those series where you can sit there and think about it and look at it and find all those like deeper points about it, like its commentary and everything. And this is the kind of show that I definitively like. Ones that are even just on a generic sense good, but also offer you something really, really compelling that's below the surface. Something where you can sit there and actually talk about what the hell is going on with the anime. So yeah, this is definitely a recommendation from me. I would say that the 8.5 out of 10 is very well earned. There are certain things about it that do sort of feel like a little bit faster paced than they should be. There are certain animation points where I wasn't necessarily like a huge fan, but overall on the things that it actually like focuses on with the anime, it does really, really well. It does a good job. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with this entry. Whatever other thoughts that I do have on this particular topic, I am just going to end up saving for the video that I will do on it next week. But for now, if you haven't watched 86 and you're looking for a good, like short, like 23 episodes to, check out, it's worth your time. It's actually really, really well crafted. And thank you, Thumb Ugly. I really appreciate the comment. I appreciate the depth of your review. I've been mostly aware of 86's story. This definitely looks forward to this. AOT lost me after season 1. See, I had no problem with AOT up until like the final moments. And as I've thought more and more and more about AOT, it's really started to piss me off more because the very end, like the future stuff, really does betray the idea of hope for a better world that Attack on Titan chases throughout like the entire series. Like season 4 deviates from that. It really turns into like the nihilistic, there is no way out of this except for to kill. But the very end is the biggest fucking bitch slap to that whole theme of it. It feels like. Like you literally could have left it off on like Armin and everyone returning to Paradis and being like, all right, it's up to us now to make this work. You could have left it there. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But fucking no. That's not what we got. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Oops. I already removed that. It is that time to start talking about suggestions for the wheel. So, if you have an anime that you would like me to watch and review, now is your chance to put it on the wheel, and we will spin to see who it is, or to see what anime it is that I will be covering. So you're gonna have to clarify what you mean by Danmachi here, because I am not watching all 4 seasons of Danmachi in 1 week. It's not. I'm gonna be outright with you this week in particular. Not happening because we have Fictionology. So it's either the first 2 seasons. All right. We'll put that on there. Get your suggestions now, people, if you want to subject me to something. And keep in mind, it has to be something 24-ish episodes. Because I want to be able to complete it in a week. I don't want to have to slog through a ton of stuff. If Comey can't communicate. Anyone else? We're taking suggestions, If you have a short anime you want to put on the wheel, I should have mentioned this earlier before I got into the review, but I unfortunately forgot. I have not seen Yuki Kaze. I don't think. Let me see this. Yeah, I have definitely not seen Yuki Kaze. So if that is your suggestion, we will put that on the list. Anyone else? We're going to give this, I don't know. I guess I'll give this a couple more minutes to see if anyone wants to get their suggestions ready. This upcoming week. So while we wait to see if anyone else is going to straggle in here with stuff, I will say, so basically this upcoming week, what it looks like is Big O's breakdown on Monday. I'm actually perfectly fine with both of those, so that's cool. Isn't necessarily a lack of interest that I haven't seen things. It's just there's so many anime out there and I only have so much time in my life. And yeah, I actually do kind of agree. That does sound dope. But yeah, basically this week it looks like Biggles Breakdown Monday. Wednesday we have Fictionology Black Lagoon, and then Saturday is of course going to be the open mic for talking about seasonal anime. So if you're a regular viewer of this show, you will have the opportunity to join in and participate in some of the weekly discussions and stuff, basically talking about all the seasonal stuff that we're going to get to after this. But if that is what we are at, I will give this, let's see, I'll give this 2 more minutes before I spin this wheel. So again, I'll put the call out there. Gargantia. That's an interesting Gargantia. Yeah, that's the first one I see. Okay. All right. I was going to say, just to clarify, there are a couple of ones in there. That one makes the most sense. We have not. We still have a little bit of time. If you're going to throw in a suggestion, go ahead and do it right now. I've been holding off to make sure there wasn't anyone, kind of like straggling in to get their suggestions in. Go ahead, throw them out right now. Now and then, here and there. Now and then, here and there. And all right, we're going to close the voting now. Okay, so those are our suggestions. for the night. So let's spin and see what we're going to watch this next week. There we go. All right, looks like Rolo's suggestion is what we're going with. Gargantia of the Verdurous Planet. For those of you who are somewhat unfamiliar, let me pull this up and let everyone see what this is. There we go. All right. Share this screen. Everyone see this? Okay, there we go. Okay, so in the distant future, the majority of humans have left Earth, and the Galactic Alliance of Humanity is founded to guide exploration and ensure the prosperity of mankind. However, a significant threat arises in the form of a strange creature called Hideus, resulting in an interstellar war to prevent humanity's extinction. Armed with Chamber, an autonomous robot, 16-year-old Lieutenant Leto of the Galactic Alliance joins the battle against the monsters. In an unfortunate turn of events, Leto loses control during the battle and is cast out to the far reaches of space, crash landing on a waterlogged Earth. On the blue planet, Gargantia, a large fleet of scavenger ships comes across Chamber and retrieves it from the ocean, thinking they have salvaged something of value. Mistaking their actions for hostility, Leto sneaks aboard and takes a young messenger girl named Amy hostage, only to realize that the residents of Gargantia are not as dangerous as he believed. Faced with uncertainty and unable to communicate with his comrades in space, Leto attempts to get his bearings and acclimate to a new lifestyle. But his peaceful days are about to be short-lived, as there is more to this ocean-covered planet than meets the eye. So, Thumb Ugly likes it. Fucking rolls in and gets his shit picked on the first go, shaking my head. Yeah, how long were you recommending 86? You and Marcel both. Marcel was on Chio School Road for such a long time, and you were putting 86 up for suggestion for so long. Like, you... But, like, it's fucking randomized, so... Anyway, before we proceed to the next segment, I am going to take a little bit of a break here. So I'm going to throw up the intermission music, and I will be back shortly. So be prepared. We still have weekly anime discussion. I have 2 weeks worth of anime discussion to go through, plus waifu tier list that includes Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian and Frieren. So don't go anywhere. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let's do this thing. So, we got about 2 weeks worth of anime to catch up on. Close that out, go over here, and get ready to talk. Okay. So, obviously, we're going to start with the best anime of the year so far, Frieren. So, episode 8 gave us the conclusion to the Revolte fight. And or like this whole like Divine Revolte arc. And we got a lot of really, really good stuff in that episode, particularly on the action front. Obviously, there was the stuff with, Fern just being the greatest sniper of all time. And then the Method basically just stealing the show from everyone. Like, she was the star of the week because of, her part in that episode. And honestly, she deserves it. She was a really cool character in this one. Although personally, I do favor Stark more because like his whole cleaving light thing that happens in that episode where him and Genau are fighting Revolte, spectacular. Honestly, in terms of animation and just general fight choreography, Frieren did fantastic with episode 8. It's one of those mini arcs that does get a little bit of notoriety, specifically because you do get to see why the first class mages are so highly regarded. You also get to see Stark performing his role as like a frontliner really, really well, and just like proving that he's a fucking badass. It put him in like he acts like a coward, but put him in a fucking tense situation, and he will pull through every time. And before we get anything else, though, Jeremy Turner, Kirk's Red Shirts here. Gotta bounce and need to watch Tojima. Glad you like 86. Great stream. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the $5.
Don't get a boner.
I clicked the wrong thing. Don't stream while drunk. It helps with that. I'm not actually that good, not actually that intoxicated, but anyway, as far as the action heavy episodes of Frieren goes, this one was episode 8 was really good. It gave a lot of like different kinds of like enthralling combat. There were actually really good resolutions to how everything goes. I really like particularly how like Method was able to like deduce that like if I give Fern a chance to slip their detection, she'll destroy both of these people. And so she basically spent her whole time fighting and clearing the fog, specifically so that Fern could just disappear and snipe everyone. And of course, you get Zoltrak playing in the background, which is the song that they play there. That was a really nice touch to that. And I keep looping back to just, Stark being a fucking beast in that fight against Revolte. Episode 9, we get a little bit more of just like, Stark being a fucking baller. Because we do have them encountering the village that was attacked by dragons. And they take on the whole swarm of dragons with, Stark basically just jumping in there and fucking hammering shit. It was really funny to me how they had the comments about him getting his head chewed on and everything. But like, it looks good. The better part of this episode for me was specifically centered around Himmel's memoirs. I liked seeing like that particular chapter get animated, but I will say like the constant like flashes to Mocked throughout this season have been really, really good. Like with the number of times that they have alluded to Mocked I doubt that we're going. I'm pretty sure, like 90% confident, we're going to get a season 3 announcement right after next week's episode. Like, I feel like we're probably going to get an immediate announcement for season 3 on this one. Or at least some form of sequel to this, because they've been heavily alluding to the Golden Lands throughout all this. Hell, they even mentioned the Golden Land. But it was really nice, particularly on a storytelling front, to be able to see things from like Himmel's perspective for a little bit, and like his memoirs and stuff being like a really like interesting part of all that, and just the general like silliness of like Frieren taking on a job in exchange for a grimoire that allows you to say tongue twisters without screwing up. And then flashing over to, Himmel talking about like why he always takes payment so that people would never owe him anything. Really good series. I have been fucking loving every bit of this. I'm very happy with this. And there's only one more episode before we get the next season, but the next season is going to bring in quite a bit of good content in and of itself. So we will leave it at that. We'll do the full review. We'll do like, a full review of everything that's going on with it next week, once we get the final episode and see what they're going to do. But I'm calling it now. We're probably going to see a season 3 or like I don't know. I'm not going to rule out, with the number of anime that have been doing movies and stuff lately, I'm not going to rule out that they turn the Golden Land into a movie. And I'm not going to lie, I would be totally okay with watching Frieren in theaters. Like, I'd be down for that. All right. Another anime that I am totally down to watch. Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. So the last 2 episodes here basically entail the entire finale. And I'm just going to say it. Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider is only a 9 out of 10 for me, because of 2 episodes that I didn't like, that I didn't think were particularly amazing. That is the only reason that I am really deducting any points from this one, because otherwise, this is a fantastic show. And I was actually just recommending this, now that it is finished, to a buddy of mine who was asking me for a couple of recommendations for anime this season. Tojima is awesome. It is an easy number 2 for this season. It is so much fun. For these last 2 episodes, basically, everyone raids the Tokyo Dome to try and put a stop to Shocker's plan to turn a bunch of people into Shocker combatants. And it pretty much all goes, pretty well. They have some hiccups there where people get discovered and they have to fight a bunch of combatants and all that. But eventually they are able to evacuate people before they get turned into combatants. Well, they all confront the Batman. Anyway, the final battle for Tojima's great. It just overall, this series has been so much fun to watch. It's been so like over the top and ridiculous, like in the best way possible. Like, it is basically taken a bunch of like chuny adults, turned them into like really endearing heroes, and giving them some like really fucking epic moments. Like Tojima's whole thing in this last episode was perfect. Like him just fucking beating the shit out of the bat was awesome. So I'm not gonna lie to you, you are missing out if you haven't started watching Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. It's 24 episodes. And if you're a dub person, the dub's almost completed. It'll only be about 2 more weeks before the dub is all wrapped up. They picked a really good cast from everything that I've heard. Otherwise, if you are just like straight up a sub person, get on it now. Fucking binge this shit. Do it now. It's good. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 by the end of it. There are only 2 episodes in here that are like, okay, what the hell is going on? Everything else, though, awesome. And I will say, you know a series is good when the Japanese government has to put out a warning that you're not supposed to fist fight a bear. That's a thing that happened, actually. When there were 2 episodes in which Tojima fist fights a bear. When the second one came out, the government had to go say that, yeah, do not go fist fight a grizzly bear. You will get killed. All in all, I'm really sad to see it go. But Tojima fucking peak shit right there. All right. You want to laugh, you want to get hyped up, go watch Tojima's. Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider is greater than fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Let's go. That's not a thing I've talked about, but the JoJo's community is all like fucking riled up over being like the #1 anime on my anime list right now. And it's really fucking funny to see every comment section regarding like people are downvoting this series, basically just be a bunch of like delusional Frieren haters. But that's a topic for not this stream. That's something that I will finish for later. Sentenced to Be a Hero is up next. Let's talk about this. So, Sentenced to Be a Hero, episode 10. You have a full scale like city battle. Now indefinite wait until the next episode, LMFAO. Yes. Meanwhile, all of the fans of the of Steel Ball Run sit here and seethe over Frieren, pretending like, oh no, a very small minority of votes that came in on the series on one site are super fucking negative, like every top slot series gets every single fucking time. It has to be fucking Frieren because Frieren fans are shit and they deserve to be downvoted. Yeah, it's a bunch of fucking delusion, but I should stop talking about that. It's just annoying to see fucking shitters on the internet. Anyway, Sentenced to Be a Hero. We do get introduced to the final member of the Penal Heroes group, the Penal Hero Unit. And Rhino is our artillery support. He is basically like the big guns of the group, which is cool to see. Like him in action doing his thing. He's got the shield ability and you just the long range launcher shit. Really cool. I honestly like that unique element of Sentenced to Be a Hero and how they have a lot of those like long range magical weapons. Like the thunder staves and the artillery stuff. All of that's really cool about this series. It definitely, episode 10 definitely gives us the impression that Veneton knows quite a bit about what's going on with the Demon Lords. Because he seems to be like very active in trying to prevent anything that they would do. So I don't know like what information he's privy to, but it's very clear that he knows some shit. Meanwhile, we have Kivia learning more and more that there is something wrong going on with her uncle, because there's just something that like doesn't line up with her knowledge of things, and it's driving her more and more to suspect that, you know, there's some fuckery going on. Episode 11 comes around though. We basically have all the mercenaries working for the Demon Lord getting their fucking shit rocked by the penal heroes. The chick with the steel arms goes up against Xylo and gets fucked up. The artillery guy ends up getting his ass whooped by Rhino in terms of just like fucking long range combat. Like Xylo and crew played that really, really well to set all that up. And then, of course, we have Bujam taking on his full demonic form and, you know, confronting them. And we get some very interesting lore drops in here about, like, a potential king of the demons, like that all of these demon lords serve. And whatever the fuck is going on with who's ruling them. Meanwhile, you have Kivia and the former fiance, you know, like sort of like trading favors and everything in order to figure out what the hell is going on behind the scenes. And I am more and more and more convinced that Kivia is about to get framed for a crime herself. Like I am 90% convinced that the ending of this first season of Sentenced to Be a Hero is going to be Kivia being sentenced to be a penal hero. She's getting to the point where she knows too much. And I don't see the system tolerating that. Alrighty. Let's talk Kaya-chan Isn't Scary. I really liked these last two episodes. Like they were really, really good. We kind of find out that Kaya's mother is potentially up to some very, very dangerous stuff. And that it is not any mistake on any part that Kaya has special powers. We do, of course, have our wandering psychic, who is a member of the Ebisumori clan, nearly ends up killing Kaya because of, you know, his interaction with her. He sees her as basically a monster. And because of that whole interaction there, we get to see a lot of the lore behind the Ebisumori clan and where Kaya actually gets her powers from. Which is in and of itself, why does that keep fucking happening? Stop. I want it. There we go. So yeah, that episode gave us a lot of good lore. Episode 9, it really helped solidify like what this series was going to be. It really helped like define a lot of the things that had just sort of been like loose ends up to this point, and had overall been just like a really, really good tie-up to everything that this series had been building up to. Of course, that only gets a little bit more crazy as you move on into episode 10. And you learn a little bit more about like how the Ebisumori clan was passing along the powers of the first Shrine Maiden and all that. You learn a little bit about like this whole cursed womb thing, about the aunt and how she was like the firstborn, and how she was supposed to be the one to, you know, inherit or pass down the the powers, and then of course you get the inclination. I don't know what the word is. Apparently, I've had a little too much. But basically, you get the implied bit of information that Mirai Abisumori, one, it has basically like stolen the powers of the Shrine Maiden. Two, is potentially not human anymore herself. And that there are some dangerous things about to go down. All in all, as far as Kaya is concerned, this is a series that has actually blown me away with how well it's done telling a story. Again, as I said in my review, it's not necessarily like I find a lot of the characters super compelling or like I'm super invested in like their lives or anything, but in and of itself, it is a fantastic story. And on that point alone, it really does succeed. Because without that one thing, without being really well constructed as a narrative, it probably would not rank this high. But I have found myself really intrigued in seeing where all this is going to go. I found myself like really like wondering what we are going to get like out of this series as a whole, like as it goes on, like how much more fucked up is it going to get? How much darker are we actually going to get in this series? How much more like crazy shit is going to get unveiled to us? Like what kind of monsters are we dealing with? Like at this point, I want to know. That's the kind of story this is. It really hooks you. It really gets you invested in what's going on. In spite of the fact that it may not have the most compelling characters, it may not have the best animation. It definitely has a fantastic story, though. And that matters. It may not be my number one priority, but that still matters when it comes to fiction. So it is, in my eyes, a good series for that, in that alone. And that it can tell a good story. All right, let's talk about Medalist, because this is another one that has now wrapped up. And I have technically 3 episodes to cover here. It does make me hate the character of Mob. I don't necessarily hate him, but I just don't find him all that, like his backstory is good, but I don't necessarily like the character because he comes off as a real creep. Like, he's a little too creepy for his own good, and I find him a little bit more annoying. Anyway, Medalist. So this season was largely transitioning from season 1 on into the movie, which is going to be like a major competition. Honestly, I have liked Medalist season 2 overall. I enjoy this series a lot more for like the goofy interactions that you get between Tsukasa and Inori. I like that dynamic that they have going for them, like the student teacher stuff. There's a lot of good, fun stuff that goes on there, and of course, we can point out that there was the wildest out of context moment you possibly could have had with the maybe I was too rough with her last night comments. Where they were like, sleeping in the van after their road trip and everything. But genuinely, like, this show is great. It's one of the few sports anime I genuinely love because it has charming characters, really good chemistry between the 2 main actors in this. And it actually, makes out like a decent bit of like competition and stuff. It shows Inori putting in a lot of work. It shows the effects that pressure has on her. It shows a lot of like the negative side effects that this sort of life has on a young mind. And it does it in a way that isn't completely glum and depressing. It does it in a way that's actually like very entertaining, that's very compelling, and it sprinkles in a good bit of humor just for good measure. Like the whole thing with I keep going back to it, but the whole thing with like Inori like talking about her abs and then being embarrassed about showing her belly button to everyone. I like that's the kind of stuff that I find really fucking funny about this anime. Like it's just a good show. I know a lot of people will complain about like CGI in anime. And I get it. Like most of the time, it does look jarring or bad. But when it comes to this anime in particular, it does it really well. It is the example of CGI being used correctly. And as someone who doesn't like care for sports anime, the fact that I really, really like the show and I would consider it a must watch for the winter season should speak volumes to the quality of the character writing and the storytelling that goes on with this. Like, there is nothing about this anime that, like, on the surface level catches my attention. And yet, I'm still here saying that this is great because it's a worthwhile investment of your time. Now that season 2 is all wrapped up and we are moving on to the movie, I will say if you aren't caught up on this series, it's worth a shot. Try and get through season 1, give it a chance, and try and get caught up. All right. Let's talk about the childhood friend rom-com. First up, we have episode 10 for childhood friend rom-com. For those of you who aren't aware, this is you can't be in a romantic comedy with your childhood friends. So there are a lot of kisses that happen in episode 10. First you have Haru, the tomboy, accidentally tripping in the room and then falling on top of AU and kissing him and all that. And you're really starting to see her like develop feelings for AU, or at least realize that she has feelings for the guy. And then of course later on you have jealous Shio going and kissing the guy because she, wanted to actually she wanted to keep up with everything and decided she was just going to go for it. Episode 10 also presents us with like the very funny moment of like Runako, the little sister character, being super terrified of Haru because she just remembers Haru chasing her around with frogs and she really doesn't like frogs. So there was a really good bit of comedy in this, but overall this episode just kind of like beats around the bush so much that it kind of gets annoying, but it's like super obvious that like people are like just waiting to make a move and everything. Like everyone's just sitting there like, oh no, what am I gonna do? It's a good episode because things happen and you have some good comedy to it. It lives up to the rom-com part of it. It actually has some progress for it, but episode 11 is a little bit disappointing on the back end of that because we do have the 2 counseling sessions that go down. So basically, AU and Haru go to their baseball session, and they're just slugging it out, having their time, and Haru is basically berating AU for not making a move, for not making a decision. Like, you're going to drive everyone away if you don't do something. Meanwhile, Akari and Shio are having their own counseling session where Akari is completely misunderstanding that everything that Shio is saying up until the very end when Shio is just like, it doesn't matter if I kissed him. I'm going to go still be friends with him. And in that, she really fucking drops the ball super hard. She had her crush thinking about her. She had the guy right where she wanted him and went and fucking friend zoned him. And that broke his brain and he went fully fucking retarded. But at least in this anime, in this episode, we do have the bits where Haru is really starting to become aware of the fact that she like may or may not have feelings for AU. So there was at least that little bit of development that I did enjoy. Again, there was some comedy and stuff that happens in this episode. There are a couple of good laughs. I apologize for that. I should have muted. But like, it's a good show. Maybe not necessarily like a I don't know. We'll see as the season goes on. But I feel like I need to move a couple of these down a notch for me because they aren't necessarily living up to the hype that I've given them. And we'll get to those though. Like Tomboy, she is great. I don't know how the series ends since it's on the gag side. I don't know how it shakes out. Personally, I'm voting for the tsundere because I think Akari is the best. Akari is best girl. Let's go. All right. Either way, I still enjoy the series. I really look forward to like how it's gonna go. Maybe I even go and check out the manga for this one. Let's talk My Hero Academia though. So, we have started the CC send-off party. Now is a good time to say it's almost 200 chapters, lol, and I may be tripping. Well, who cares? I enjoy it so far. I just look. I just want to see the tsundere be a tsundere, okay? Tsundere only works with access to her internal monologue. Otherwise, tsundere is just bitchy. Yeah, I understand why a lot of people might have problems with tsunderes. But personally, I really like them as an archetype. I find them to be really, really compelling characters when they're written well. Obviously, like bad tsunderes just come off as bitchy. They just come off as like being, fucking cunts for no reason. But even if you don't have the internal monologue, you can still write a really, really good tsundere. Like Alia from Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. Or again, Akari or Asuka. Hell, even the fucking queen of tsunderes herself, Karane. Like, I like the archetype. Real life is probably a little bit different. But in fiction, I like tsunderes. Anyway, so episode 10 of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Basically, Captain Celebrity is having a send-off party. Meanwhile, Mr. Aizawa is, pulling off his hospital raid. They're going after all of the prototype Nomu. Of course, the hospital raid kind of they kind of biff that one and things go sideways, and it turns out that they end up attacking the facility, the Sky Egg, and like basically cornering Captain Celebrity into taking a bunch of hits, and to try and save people. And one of the things that I actually have liked about these past couple of episodes is that they have painted Captain Celebrity in a far kinder light than they did in the previous episodes. Again, I like that they're actually giving him genuine hero moments. I like that they're actually making him like a self-reflective character, someone who's able to like objectively analyze his own flaws and be like, yes, I could have done so much better in all these areas, and like I need to like actually like do some things to like mend the damage that I've done. I need to do some things to like fix myself up. And also he's not just like some total fucking douchebag. Like he's actually sitting there like tanking shots specifically because he's trying to save people in episode 10. Same with episode 11. He's literally just like not able to fight back because he's more concerned about the people that he is, keeping alive, while Speed Demon Boy is sitting there like abusing the shit out of everything. Meanwhile, I really liked episode 11. Not because we get the CC backstory and we get some really good moments for him, but Koichi actually gets to show off how like his powers are really, really cool. Like we actually get to show him like firing multiple projectiles rapid fire. And like how he's able to use both like the suction and the repulsion powers at the same time. So that part of it is really cool. Like it's actually developing him as a hero and as a character. It's actually giving him a moment to really shine as the main character. I also like that they didn't just fucking ignore the fact that there were a bunch of heroes in the Sky Egg. Like they had a bunch of people who could easily respond to the situation and they deployed them. Thank you. I was really hoping that they would, and that they wouldn't just let Captain Celebrity sit there and like just, fucking get the shit beaten out of him because they were too lazy to think about things. They actually do that pretty well. They play the situation out very well for the cards that they were dealing. There was a very clear amount of forethought put into everything that happens here, and I respect that. I appreciate the fact that they aren't just fucking ass pulling everything, that they aren't just bullshitting their way through it. They had a vision, they executed upon it well. I'm only waiting now for fucking Knuckle Duster to show up and do something, because that's really all this season needs. Unfortunately, though, because of the large absence of Knuckle Duster throughout this whole thing, I do ultimately want to move this one down to the very good category. I really liked the first season of this, but without Hobo Batman, I feel like it does lack quite a bit. There are really good moments within it, but it just doesn't give me quite the same thing as season 1. So this is one of those ones that's going to go down in the very good category as we're approaching the end. Not that it's like a huge downgrade or anything. I just don't feel like it is like the must-watch category kind of stuff. All right. Sorry. Ugh. Journal with Witch. So, episode 10 for Journal with Witch. This is a series that I feel like is super niche, but really, really good. Basically, we have a whole episode here about like Asa just like struggling to like with the concept of standing out. She is very concerned about the idea of like, should I be someone who stands out? Should I show my talents? Should I have those things that like make me stick out to people? Or should I try and like stifle myself? Should I fade in the background? Should I do nothing? And she kind of treats the whole thing of like a curse. Like she basically, you have, the teenage angst sort of thing going on. Episode 11 plays a little bit more on that fact. It delves into the idea that Asa sort of like views herself as having little to no value because she doesn't have something that she brings to the table. And she's actively trying to figure out where it is she fits in. It does show her actually, singing and everything, and everyone commenting about how she's really good as a singer and how she should use that talent and all of that, but she's afraid to. Meanwhile, of course, you have all the Valentine's Day shenanigans going down to where, like, Makio's getting Valentine's chocolates from her ex-boyfriend and everything. We've moved on a little bit from the I guess from the grief and loss part of this series, and more so on into like dealing with just Asa's own like personal life issues now that all that has been resolved, I guess. Now that she's finally come to the point where she's able to accept her parents' death, she's kind of moved on. And a lot of the storytelling around this one has actually been very fun. Well, not very fun, but very compelling. It's been a really well done series, but again, it's niche. It's more artistic. It's more expressive. And I can understand why it might not gain a lot of traction, in spite of the fact that I think that it is a very, very good series. If you want something a little bit more, like along the lines of like human expression, of like commentary on a subject, or like talking about, death and grief and dealing with the loss of a loved one, this is a pretty good series. It touches on a lot of the things that like people go through, and some of the things that you don't necessarily see out of people or in fiction discussed about when this kind of thing comes up. Like, you see a lot of the anger, the loneliness, just like all of the less talked about phases of grief, covered much more favorably in this one. Like, it actually does a good job of portraying like how people go through all of these things. It shows Asa sort of struggling to like even like comprehend the reality of her situation for a while. All right. Let's talk polar opposites. Hey, Pilgrim, how you doing? You only have 86 problems. All right, so polar opposites. Episode 9 gives us a bunch of, like the birthday bash kind of stuff. Like, there are a bunch of people like talking about birthdays and celebrating all that. And Tani gets like super concerned about like reacting to people and all that. He's really concerned about the fact that he's super stone faced and like expressionless and all that. He feels like people might get irritated with him for not expressing himself enough. Then of course we do have the whole date plan and how he and Suzuki go on their day off to just do couple things. And finally, at the end, you get the whole like kiss thing where she's like encouraging Tani to like kiss her to make a move and everything, and he just sort of hugs her, and she's just like, "All right, you know what? Sometimes you just have to do it yourself." Sorry about that. Whew. So as far as this goes, even with episode 10, this is still one that I do want to move down. We do get like a lot of the like planning for the school trip stuff. There's lots of gossip in this, and we do get like the interesting like hair down Suzuki stuff. But with polar opposites, this is one where like I initially really, really enjoyed it. I enjoy it slightly less now that I've gotten quite a bit into it, and I really enjoy more so when it's focusing on like the main couple or doing more so comedy stuff with it. It's still a really good anime. I still like it. I still enjoy it. I like its art style, its way of like expressing humor and comedy. It feels a little scattered and unfocused at times, which can be a bit of a problem. because it does tend to feel like it's spreading its time across too many different subjects. Still a very good show overall, but I guess I'm looking to sort of like reduce things down the ranks as I'm watching as we're getting closer to the end of the season. So I'm kind of sitting here looking at things, taking a little bit more of a an objective lens on it now that we're drawing to the close of the entire season. And I'm just like, the initial hype has worn off for a lot of these things. And I'm taking more so a stance on them that reflects a fuller view of the entire series. If that makes sense to you guys. If I don't sound like some fucking drunk asshole on here rambling about nonsense, I have a better view now of the series overall than I did at the beginning or at the midpoint. Since we're pretty close to wrapping everything up, I kind of understand the overall value of things better. And I can make a more accurate judgment, I feel like, as to where some of these series go and how their overall entertainment value pans out, even into the face of some of their least enticing episodes. Like all the ones up here with the must-watch category. Like, it pays off to sit through even episodes that aren't necessarily your favorite because everything works out in the end. Like, it comes right back to doing all the things you love. With the very good category, they have the potential to do that over multiple seasons. But not necessarily at the moment. Anyway, like I said earlier in the series, I'm still behind on Scum of the Brave. So I'm gonna have to do like a binge of like 4 episodes for Scum of the Brave to catch up on that. So we're just gonna skip that for tonight. I'll get back to that. I'll get back to you guys on that when we roll around to the open mic night on next Saturday. Camon's B-sides though. I actually did like these last 2 episodes. So we do get quite a bit of commentary on Natsuki. In episode 11, we get like his backstory, everything that led him to being a part of Face, and how he has this sort of relationship with the new teacher, Asuka. And like how she is, like how they basically had their falling out because of some stupid mistakes that they both made. But they don't harbor ill intent towards each other. And they're able to sort of like make up over that in episode 12. But episode 11 also reveals to us the fact that, like, you know, there's going to be this whole school festival thing going on where Face is performing at Kinoshita's school. And that's exactly what we get. We basically get all of the members of Face that we have met so far showing up in some sort of weird mask. Like, Tamon shows up with the paper bag over his face. Orty, you know, shows up with the fucking gorilla mask on. And then we have Keita, I believe his name was, shows up with the milk cartons, as you know, like that all fits basically their personalities. You have the penny pincher showing up with a makeshift mask of milk carts. You have the dude who is an absolute brute showing up with a gorilla mask. And then you have Tamon with the paper bag because he's, you know, the fucking depressed, self-denigrating person. And then Natsuki was probably the funniest because he had the fucking traffic cone with the eyes carved out. And he's just sitting there, like, outside of campus, just, like, smoking a cigarette with a traffic cone over his head. I actually fucking laughed pretty hard at that scene. But speaking of Natsuki, he does actually end up making up with Asuka in this one. So there was that good development. They actually have some good stuff going on there. Meanwhile, you have Kinoshita quitting her job as a cleaner because she's determined to not get in Tamon's way, realizing that like she has like she's more attracted to him than just being his fan. Basically, she realized she was in love with the guy and was like, you know what? I don't want to screw his career. I'm gonna say I'm gonna quit and not be a housekeeper whatsoever, because I don't want to be around him and have to try and, you know, fight back my own urges, because apparently I have no self-control. Damn it, stop. Fucking there we go. I did it. Yay. So anyway, Tamon's B-sides. I think I skipped some things. I was supposed to talk about Oshinoko. We'll get back to that. We will talk about Oshinoko right after this. Anyway, Tamon's B-sides. I've enjoyed this series, but again, it really only lands in like the very good category. It definitely does lean towards the shoujo thing, to where you do have that reverse harem sort of thing going on, where all of the guys are after this one girl. So there's that. We still have one member of Face that apparently we have not met yet, but it looks like there is a bunch of other stuff that's got to get resolved before we do anything else. So anyway, that can stay there. Let's talk about Oshinoko. So Oshinoko is another one that I do feel like I have to kind of demote to the very good category. And I do like the execution on a lot of this stuff, but honestly, as we've gotten deeper into this series, I kind of see more and more just like Aqua completely giving up on life. And I don't fucking like that. So episode 9 begins the casting for the movie. He has started his 15-year lie project. He's going all in on revenge and calling out the guy who killed his mother. We do see Aqua on far more friendly terms with Kana now that he's sort of like broken up and like they've sort of resolved their issues. And then, of course, there is the whole competition that they have to figure out who is going to play Ai Hoshino in this movie. And that comes down to Akane, to Frill, and to Ruby. And now Frill is actively trying to push for Ruby to be the one to play the role. But of course, the people in charge of like producing the movie are actively pushing for Frill because Frill has more popularity. It does a really good job of incorporating a lot of the entertainment dynamics into this series, while also being an interesting revenge story. But at the same time, I don't like how much Aqua has really just given up on life at this point. And seeing a lot of this has given me like more and more like prelude to how everything ends in this story. So episode 10 rolls around, and we do find out that Ruby is the one who is selected to play Ai Hoshino. We have a lot of like discussion as to but wait, there's more. We have like there's a lot of discussion as to like what Aqua's like plan for revenge actually is. And we have his second meeting with this weird supernatural entity that takes on the form of like this little girl, whether it's like the god of entertainment or whatever that thing is. And like it basically tells him like, hey, I is not reborn. She's gone. Her soul is just basically vanished into the ether. She doesn't exist anymore. She's not like you. She didn't get a second chance. Some really fucking depressing and brutal shit. And honestly, I have not enjoyed the dour tone that this series has taken. It's not necessarily been up my alley in that regard. It's still a good, very well written series, but you can really see Akasaka start to take a more fucked up turn in his writing right around the point you reach this element of the story. Like, you had a chance to talk about someone like finding purpose in a second life, the way you would with like isekai, like, I don't know, ReZero or Mushoku Tensei. But this one instead decides to opt for like a everything's fucking pointless message. Fuck, that's good. My local liquor store has been out of fucking Odin's Skull for the longest time, and they finally restocked, and I am so happy. I love this shit. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Maybe not necessarily irrelevant because, good booze is still good booze. But you know what I mean. Anyway, as far as Oshinoko goes, like, honestly, I'm not happy with the turn that things have taken. Like, I actually liked a lot of the stuff where you had Aqua sort of like starting to value his own life, starting to feel like there was purpose in living, starting to feel like he could actually make something of himself without his revenge. But he just kind of like forgets all of that the moment his revenge comes back into play. And that just doesn't seem right to me. That just does not feel like a good bit of storytelling to me. Let's talk Jujutsu Kaisen now, because I don't want to sit here and linger on Oshinoko for too long. Jujutsu Kaisen. So, basically a couple of fight episodes. Episode 10. Yeah, pretty much. That's like my big problem there. Episode 10. For Jujutsu Kaisen. So basically, we have the kickoff for the Reggie-Star fight. And Megumi is like 1-on-3 basically. 1-on-4. And he's able to take one out and push one person to basically drop out of the fight. And it goes down to 1-on-2. And then Takaba shows up. And I actually really fucking liked Takaba in this one. Takaba was a hilarious entry into this whole thing. Because his whole power is that whatever he thinks is funny becomes reality. So if he thinks it's hilarious that he doesn't die to an instant kill attack, he survives it. And he jumps in on Megumi's side to basically be like, hey, it's not fair to gang up 2-on-1 on this guy. You should fucking fight fair. I'll take one of you on. And that frees Megumi up to basically deal with Reggie 1-on-1, which is good because he actually fucking he actually needs that. He ends up deploying his domain in order to try and like take down Reggie, and there's a bunch of like really close calls and everything, but very clearly Megami knows what he's doing. Like the dude's fucking smart and pulls off a couple of really good moves and all of that. Episode 11 gives you more on like the actual like inner domain battle. You have the hollow wicker basket stuff, but because Megami's domain isn't complete, it's not impeded by hollow wicker basket. And that allows Megami to actually, go and kill Reggie and all of that. Like basically he had been planning everything out from the start, and it all works out for him. We do have the conclusion to Takaba's fight, which is pretty funny. The dude's basically just like, how am I able to hit this guy over and over and over again? And he just doesn't take damage. Because Takaba thinks it's funny to survive. And then we have the cut over to, of course, Angel showing up, and then the stuff that's going on with Yuta. And how Yuta basically upset the entire power balance of a colony because he just shows up and kills one of the biggest players in the area. Look, Jujutsu Kaisen is a good series, but this is one that is, again, getting kind of demoted for me because I don't necessarily like the way it tells story or it does a lot of things. It isn't a horrible series. It just doesn't fall in my wheelhouse. With Jujutsu Kaisen, like, sure, I respect a lot of people who like it. It has some really entertaining, really cool, really well done fights. But its story in and of itself is not as compelling as a vast majority of other series. What? I'm really confused. What are you losing? I used up all my luck in your stream, LOL. Anyway, Jujutsu Kaisen is cool. I still enjoy watching it, but I don't necessarily think that this is like the amazing series that a lot of people make it out to be. Well, fuck you. I get it's a joke, okay? I get it's a joke. But fuck you anyway. To blame me for shit I didn't do. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Yeah. I'm not necessarily enjoying Jujutsu Kaisen as much as a lot of other people will. Because when it comes to storytelling, I generally tend to like focus on things that actually have like compelling themes or like a deeper message to it. Again, you can kind of look at stuff like, I don't know, Frieren or Journal with Witch. Things that are a little bit more artsy, expressive. Those are the kinds of things I treat treat fiction as a form of art, and art is a form of human expression. That's my view on things. Stuff that falls more into the expression category rather than the entertainment category matches my taste a little bit better. Not necessarily like it's always going to be that way, but generally speaking, that's how it's going to break down for me. Jujutsu Kaisen, I just don't agree with the themes. Like the whole theme of Jujutsu Kaisen is if you're strong, you'll be lonely. And I'm just sitting here like, only if you're a fuckwit. Only if you, abuse that strength. Anyway. let's talk about Wash It All Away. One of my favorite comfort series for the season. Episode 10 has doggos. Big, fluffy, white doggos. Yes, exactly. So Kinmei basically gets invited over to like she's made a friend and she gets invited over to this friend's house. And this friend has a couple of really big fluffy doggos that I absolutely want to pet. We also get a little bit of lore on, like Karachi Lady and all that. We see like how she gets along with Kinmei and everything, how she's always making jokes and stuff. I like that part. Again, it's a comfort series, so I don't necessarily have a ton of commentary on this. But episode 11 comes along, and we have Kyusho like realizing that he absolutely does have a crush on Kinmei. So he has a crush on the older lady, and then we have the moment where I'm sitting there shouting at my PC screen for everyone to hear. It should have been me, not him. It's not fair. It's not fair. Q is basically sitting there on the stairs as he's going to visit like the family grave site. And he meets Kinmei. And of course the wind goes through and like the gods of wind decide to bless him with, the Kinmei panty shot that they don't show in the anime. But Q definitely saw what was going on under her skirt. And he decides that he's just gonna, fucking run off because he's too embarrassed to do anything about it. Bro, just grow a spine and tell her like it's a nice fucking color, or like it suits her or whatever. Just go for it, man. Just go for it. Say something. Anyway, so all of that happens, and you basically have this whole thing with Kyusho, like seriously having a crush on this lady. Of course, we do have Nairo showing up for a little bit of a make-believe adventure. They discover the underfloor storage, and Nairo starts getting in her head like, oh, we're going to go down there and find this cave and the castle and all. We're going to have this like epic adventure and everything. That's not what happens. Then instead, they find a missing teddy bear, and they go through the effort, like Kinmei goes through the effort of washing it. But the house she's supposed to deliver it to, because this is from someone who owned the business before she went and like took up the building and everything. The house it was supposed to be delivered to is just gone. So the bear doesn't really belong to anyone. And honestly, that's a little like nice little bit of like imagery of just like, related to Kinmei and all that, and like how she doesn't have any memories of her past or anything. Like she doesn't necessarily know where to go. She doesn't have anywhere to like specifically belong or anything. So I see how it relates and everything, but I'm not going to think too deeply about it because I don't necessarily believe that this comfort series of mine that generally presents itself as the shallow slice of life series is necessarily worth like sitting here and delving deep into the themes of everything that's going on and how it's representative of like her past and all that. Like you have a little bit of good imagery in here. That's what you got. That's all I need to say. After that, we do, of course, have Shibo Yugi playing death games to put food on the table. Now that this one is wrapped up, I'm kind of glad that I don't have to watch it anymore. This is another series where, like, I'm sorry, Arceus, I'm not going to try and denigrate this too much if you're still listening, but I don't think that this one falls into my wheelhouse. There are certain parts of it that I do definitely find compelling. And there's a reason that I watched it all the way through. But after watching the whole thing, I don't necessarily see it as all that amazing of a narrative. It definitely like leans towards the commentary side in like analyzing the character of What's her name? I gotta fucking remember her name now. Let's go. Oh shit. She. Let's go here. I'll leave it at an 8 on my anime list. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Yuki. Okay, I just wanted to be sure before I started calling her Yuki. I thought that was actually her name. Anyway, it's definitely like a deep analysis of like Yuki and her character and contrasting her with various other entries within the series and all that. But I just don't find this narrative to be super compelling. It just doesn't suit my taste. Like something can be good and not suit your taste. Objectively speaking, that can be the reality of it, okay? With Shiba Yugi, I will acknowledge that it is a good piece of entertainment or a good piece of media. It just doesn't really fall into my wheelhouse for a lot of reasons. I find it very hard to stomach the idea of watching a bunch of characters die, just like permanent deaths. It gets really hard on me when you're just like, killing characters off over and over again for no reason. And it's literally just to sort of like have the protagonists sort themselves out. Shinji, I'm looking at fucking Shinji. But in this case, I didn't necessarily think that Yuki's character development or like any of the analysis that we get of her throughout the series was worth sitting through a lot of the what I would almost describe as torture porn throughout this whole thing. Again, I strongly encourage you to go watch this series and like think about it for yourself rather than taking my opinion on it, because this is clearly a situation where it just does not fall into my wheelhouse. So I don't feel fair in passing judgment on it and telling people not to watch it, because it's clearly not meant for someone like me. But yeah, this one is interesting, but I don't think it's a very good for me. There are a lot of things about it that I could critique and sit here and like nitpick about and be super fucking bitchy over, but I'm not gonna. Particularly because my big complaint about it is that it's just hard to watch. It's depressing. It's sad. Like a lot of people are gonna die in this series. But what do you expect from a death game? So that's where it's going to sit for me. Next up on the list, we have the Holy Grail of Eris. And honestly, like as far as this goes, this is another one that I think I'm going to bring back down to the interesting category. Howdy, sir. Nice to see you here. Unfortunately, you show up when I am, deep into the stream, but hey, hope you have a good time with the rest of this. Thank you for showing up. So Holy Grail of Eris, insofar as this series goes, we do have a little bit more of like moving towards a resolution. Just watch your video on Dead Account. Well, I'm sorry that I gave the wrong impression on Dead Account, because I dropped that one on episode 3. Like I'm pretty sure in that video I acknowledged that it was it was most definitely like objectively not a good series, but I still somewhat enjoyed it. But after a little bit after that series, I ended up after that video, I ended up dropping it, which I almost feel like I'm obligated to. It's such wasted potential. Interesting. You know what? I think I feel like I would agree with that take. like wasted potential. Like it had a good thing going. Like it could have set something good up, but it just didn't play off of that well. That's actually a fair point. I like to hate watch that account. Hey. Anyway, so Holy Grail of Eris. We do have Constance in this one going, to the wharf. Like to sort of investigate a lot of the kidnappings and stuff that are happening and everything. They're looking into the Digala stuff. But that, of course, leads to the accusations that are later leveled against Constance, where she is accused of kidnapping a prince and everything. And that's pretty much setting up this like final arc here where like you're going to see some major confrontations. A lot of people are like protesting at Constance's execution and all that because they know that she's a good person, that she is innocent of any crimes, that she is being framed. Meanwhile, in the background, you do have a bunch of people who are doing everything they can to try and prevent like her execution. You have, the Earl of Hamsworth or whatever his name is, the priest guy who can see ghosts, who can see Scarlet. The prince ends up getting poisoned at some point because he reveals the fact that he knew everything that was going on from the beginning. I've actually watched Gachiakuta. I really liked it. I had actually been reading the manga before it released. Not enough to like cover everything that was in the anime, but I had read a couple of volumes of Gachiakuta and been really impressed with it. Overall, really like that series. If you had to ask me to put a number on it, I would say I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. I really like Rudo. Rudo fits into like the kind of protagonist that I really like out of shonens. He's able to actually like sit there and objectively analyze his own like mistakes and everything, and like look back at them and realize like, yeah, I did something wrong. Particularly like you look at Amo, like how he reacted to Amo's powers and like his memories being invoked on him, and how he basically like just jumped her and like beat the shit out of her in like a blind rage. He was able to like sit there and look at that and be able to apologize for the things he did, in spite of the fact that I don't necessarily blame him for having that reaction to having the worst moment of your life forced upon you a second time. But yeah, favorite character is Jabber. Sorry, mispronounced that. I'm gonna have to get really caught up with the series. I don't know, maybe tomorrow I go to the bookstore and buy some more of the manga and get caught up on that. But for now, I have other things I need to read for this stream. So I'm going to finish out Holy Grail of Eris here. I've enjoyed a lot of this stuff, but it feels like as far as like actual like pacing for the Holy Grail of Eris, it's done a pretty bad job of making it intriguing or like pacing things properly, because it really wants to just get to like the next plot point and doesn't really necessarily understand how to play out a mystery properly. Like the Apothecary Diaries does mystery really well. Amaku MD did mystery really well. It played those things out like spectacularly. But Holy Grail of Eris has not really perfected that art. Would be the best way to go about it. Online, considered buying AOT. Well, if you have a problem with AOT, we actually just covered a series tonight, 86. If you haven't watched it, I would actually recommend that, because I do have my own problems with AOT. You can rewind the stream and hear me talk a little bit earlier about like why specifically I think 86 is a better version of the story told with AOT. But just quick comments on that. Like, yeah, 86, far more appealing story than whatever it is that AOT is going to tell. Especially as you get closer to the end of the series, AOT really just betrays any faith that you would have in the series. Where are we? Okay, we've done that. We just did Holy Grail of Eris. Basically, my final thoughts on Holy Grail of Eris are it's a good villainess, but villainess series aren't necessarily my thing. So I am going to leave it in the interesting category because I don't necessarily think that is a horrid series. It's just not necessarily my wheelhouse. The last category in the very good section for tonight's reviews would be Hell's Paradise. And I know I probably get a lot on people's nerves for not enjoying this series as much as everyone else does. But I do genuinely have like praises for Hell's Paradise and the fact that it can do cool fights. And it has like very entertaining I guess a good power system. It has like decent characters. And like it's far more competent than a lot of other things that are out there. It's far more competent than a lot of things that I have watched. It's just yet another one of those series that doesn't necessarily fall into my wheelhouse. My apologies, guys. If you're hearing me make hiccup noises or anything, it definitely doesn't have to do with anything that I've been doing on stream, you know? Anyway, Hell's Paradise. I do have praises and I do have nitpicks about this series. And I will acknowledge that like this is definitely one where like if you're a fan of the series, you probably really, really like it. If you're not necessarily into what it's got, you're not really going to be super interested in it. I kind of fall into the latter category there to where like it doesn't necessarily suit my tastes. So I kind of find that like I'm sort of like sitting here not super invested in everything going on. So like I can respect the opinion that like people really, really love it. There are multiple people in this chat who really, really love Hell's Paradise. But not everything that's good is going to be for everyone. Like that's something eventually you do have to acknowledge when you like start doing a bunch of reviews and stuff like I do for this channel. It's like just because something is like good or objectively can be analyzed as like a good piece of media or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to fall into your wheelhouse. Again, yeah, I could point to Shiba Yugi or you know, like how Biggles would probably ream me out for not liking Holy Grail of Eris as much as he does. But with Hell's Paradise, like I understand why people will like it. Not necessarily my thing. The fights against the Tencent in this have been like pretty good, really well executed in all this, but it doesn't necessarily hit the kind of things that I want out of storytelling. Like I expressed earlier, I generally tend to enjoy the things that are a little bit more on the expressive side of the spectrum of fiction rather than the entertainment side. This one definitely leans more towards the entertainment side. So like it's going to entertain a lot. It's going to capture a lot of people's attentions because it does focus more so on the action, more so on executing on fights and confrontations and stuff like that. And it's again, it's done really well on a lot of those things. These Tencent fights for the past couple of weeks have actually been really well done. Very captivating. Well, you're not alone in the Dragon Ball thing. Like, I'm not exactly a huge fan of Dragon Ball myself. Well, with Hell's Paradise, like I totally respect that people will probably disagree with me on putting it in like my third tier here. But it kind of falls into a category to where I look for specific things in storytelling. I look for specific things like characters, like how good they are, like how much I actually want to root for them. It just kind of ends up being like one of those things where like I find it entertaining. I do have some interest in how Hell's Paradise plays out. But I never really find myself sitting there like, oh, like thinking about a character or thinking about like what's actually going on in the story. I don't find it running loops in my head the way a series like, I don't know, Frieren would, or 86 would, or Summertime Rendering would. And just for some like recent examples there. Your message just showed up. It showed up here and here. Like, I see it. But yeah, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Like, that seems, again, one of those things that's more so a taste thing, a personal preference sort of thing. It does not bother me. Particularly because, like, if you hang around this channel, you're going to find out that I'm a bit of a degen myself. And I'm not turned off by the idea of unusual or weird story. Yeah, I mean, it's I. The sex thing with Hell's Paradise isn't necessarily like a huge negative to me. It doesn't like put me off. It just kind of goes into one of those things where I have this weird thing about me where I get morbidly curious about very unusual facets of storytelling. Or like I get very morbidly curious about bad stories or things that are just objectively outlandish. Take some of the manga we covered earlier in the night. So that I'm relatively unfazed, particularly because like I'm a Berserk fan. You can see a lot of my Berserk collection displayed prominently off in the corner there. So weird and fucked up shit don't faze me. And for that, I'll actually give it a little bit of praise. Like the Tencent are kind of like very accurately portrayed as like alien and inhuman. And I do like a little bit of like the, I guess, Ishida body horror you get kind of out of this stuff, to where they have those very like alien forms as they transform into their more powerful states. But again, it like Hell's Paradise falls into the shallow side for me. It doesn't necessarily captivate me the way I generally would want out of a series. So if it's for you, have fun with it. Go for it. I'm not going to judge you for it. I respect the love for the series, but it's one of those things that I guess falls outside my wheelhouse. Move on down the list, try and finish things out for the night. So, Hell Teacher Nube. Let's talk about this one. So watch or read Frieren, maybe. I started reading Frieren way before the anime was ever announced, and fell in love with the series. It's really going to depend on whether the actual animation of the series matters to you. If the actual like animation matters to you, I would say watch it. If you're more so interested in just the straight up like storytelling, or the themes that are presented in Frieren, you could do either or. You'd probably have more fun reading it if that's the case, because you'll get farther into the story by reading it. If you're just a watcher, then yeah, probably check out the anime. Give it a little bit of time to really like hit its stride, and then go from there. Again, even in spite of the fact that I think, or even in spite of the fact that Frieren is one of my favorite series of all time, I don't think it's necessarily going to be for everyone. So it's really going to depend. Anyway, Hell Teacher Nube. We're going to really try and focus on the rest of these series and hammer the rest of this out. Get through the rest of the night so that I can call it quits. I'm starting to feel my voice go out here. Oh geez, don't bring up this conversation. Anyway, Hell Teacher Nube. So, episode 10 rolls around. We get a really like interesting episode about one of Nube's like first classes. You start to see like some of his previous students. And we're dealing specifically with Megami in this case. And it's kind of obvious that Megami was dead, like right from the start. It was pretty obvious that she was a ghost given the circumstances. But like they do eventually reveal the fact that that's what's going on. Like she suffered from a curse that ultimately killed her, even in spite of the fact that Nube was able to exorcise that curse. And while I did find that episode cheesy, I don't necessarily hate it. Like it still wasn't the worst thing ever. But I can't really count it towards the series because I didn't necessarily find it as compelling as, say, the Zashiki Warashi episode that happened in here. Episode 11 was another interesting one where we're introduced to Miss Mary, you know, the psychic ghost, where like Nube starts to have like all those like this girl basically went through everything that I went through as a kid. Only she ended up taking her own life because of all of the bullying and ostracization she went through. Whereas I actually had someone to support me. So it was interesting to see that sort of like presentation made to where like you get to see like what would have happened to Nube if he hadn't had that person in his life, if he hadn't had someone to support him when he needed it the most. You also get to see him like going up against a monster that's probably one of the more powerful ones he's faced. And like actively like trying to do everything he can to save the students he still has. It's a good series. It continues on with that like sort of like episodic nature of things. And it continues to like play off of like Nube's own like personal experiences, as well as like his desire to protect the kids under his tutelage and everything. It's pretty good in that regard, but again, it does suffer in the storytelling department because it doesn't have that backbone of an actual plot. It is far more episodic adventures rather than like every episode is its own contained thing. Versus like a series, say like I don't know, we can just pull one up here like Fire Force, which actually has like this whole like established plot that it's following. Hell Teacher finale next week. 2 episode drop. Interesting. Recommendations, manga or anime. So, it really depends. If you're looking for like shonen stuff, like from everything you've said in stream so far, It seems like you do tend to prefer the like shonen side of things. I would actually recommend one of the anime that's further up on my list here that I talked earlier about this night. Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. Out of just this season and last season, so this is 24 episodes. If you're a dub fan, the dub is almost complete for Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. So you can watch it that way. The voice of Endeavor from My Hero Academia is the voice of the main character. So that's actually a positive for me. Good series overall. Yeah, okay. So that's just something out of this season. As I was right, I would recommend like Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. Overall, though, like some of my favorite anime, I would also recommend for a starter Mob Psycho 100. That's another one that's, I believe, fully dubbed. It's only 3 seasons long, which are like 12 episodes apiece. So it's short, it's really simple. And overall, very good, very lighthearted. There are maybe like 2 episodes in there that are considered filler. First anime was Death Note. If you're looking for a manga to read, though, so those would be like my 2 anime recommendations for a starter. If you're looking for a manga to read, I would actually say, let's see here. What do I have in my collection that I would recommend? You know what? Let's go with 2 here. Claymore. Try Claymore and try Witch Hat Atelier. Now, Witch Hat Atelier actually has an anime coming out next season. But both of those are like worthwhile for different reasons. Claymore is a little bit on like the Death Note side of the dark spectrum. It's a little bit more seinen. And basically that is you have like these warrior women who are like half monster, basically fighting a bunch of monsters. So they all have like special powers and everything. Honestly, I think it's really cool. Witch Hat Atelier is just genuinely like a wholesome, really well illustrated series. And overall, as far as the anime, yeah, like this is what I'm aiming for, is to try and give you like a good spread of like different themes, different kinds of stories, and overall like the tamer stuff to really show you that like anime or manga has a lot of good to offer. I genuinely try to avoid throwing people into like the deep end with like, I don't know, something like Berserk. Because as much as Berserk is my favorite manga of all times, it is a hard read. So I would not recommend starting with something terribly dark like that. Definitely work your way into that. But again, anime, Tojima, Mob Psycho 100. Manga, Witch Hat, and Claymore. Those would be my recommendations. All right. We will continue on with the night. Try and round things out. So, in the clean. The issue with like Berserk is the animes never really do a good job of portraying what's actually in the manga. So if you actually want some like really in-depth discussion, not to plug myself too much, we did a stream, me and a bunch of friends did a stream not too long ago where we really like discussed a lot of what's going on with Berserk in depth. Not necessarily everything that's going on, but we talked quite a bit about like the anime and the manga, and the guys who hadn't necessarily seen Berserk or had any experience with it, I made them go through the 97 version of the anime and then read the manga over the same stretch of storytelling, because the manga gives you a very, very different experience. And again, when it comes to Berserk, I do not recommend that to beginners. It is a very hard story to get into. It is very dark. It is very brutal. It is painful to go through. So unless you like it when it hurts, unless you're a masochist, you probably should hold off on that one until you kind of have like eased into some of the more messed up, darker stories that you're going to get out of this medium. Again, that's why I go back to stuff like, Tojima, Mob Psycho, Claymore, Witch Atelier. Those would be the series that I would say like they're really good for just getting starters acclimated into the entire vibe of anime. A lot of them are pretty short, really easy to get into and complete. And just overall, finish up. Like just get an experience for things that as far as the High School DxD thing, that's another one that I would say is ease into that stuff. Like if you throw an anime beginner into something like High School DxD, that's a recipe for disaster. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut that conversation there. I do want to kind of wrap up my night because it's getting a little late for me. And I only have a couple more anime here to talk about. And then, the waifu tier list shit that I got to do at the end of my stream because I've already talked about it. So, I'm probably going to ignore some chats. So, apologies ahead of time. Clear Moonlit Dusk. We'll continue on with this. So that is this guy right here. Episode 9, we do have the whole trip to Kobe thing. You do have Yoi and Senpai, sort of just doing their thing, flirting, being a couple, all that. And they give Yoi a chance to actually look feminine and everything. They actually make her out to be like a fairly feminine lady. Breaking away from her usual masculine persona. You also get her, with the kiss on the forehead and everything. Genuinely a good episode. I really enjoyed episode 9. I thought it was pretty good as far as developments for the characters go, as far as their relationship progressing goes. Genuinely enjoyed a lot of things that they did. I didn't necessarily like episode 10 as much because it focused more so on the love triangle stuff that was going on. And I actually have a note in here that I'm looking at right now. It's are we really gonna get this stupid fucking love triangle bullshit? It spends the entire episode focusing on the Yoi and the red-haired dude who ends up confessing at the end of the episode. And I'm just sitting here oh God, are we going to complicate this shit? For those of you who don't know, I hate love triangles. They annoy the shit out of me. But that's a rant that I've already gone through a bunch of times. So it's why are we doing this? You already have two characters in a relationship doing their thing. It's one of those things where I kind of want to demote this one. Let's see here. It's a good romance and everything, but it fumbles a couple of things. It has annoyed me with this last episode. Fire Force. Fire Force is another one where I'm just kind of dragging my feet along trying to complete this one. I have not liked everything that they have done with season 3 here. They've done better as they've gotten to the second part of part 2. So as the latter half of part 2 has actually been fun. It's actually been entertaining. but I have not necessarily enjoyed the storytelling of Fire Force. We get a bunch of doppelganger fights and everything. I'm just kind of meh on the series overall. The biggest thing that has pissed me off these past couple of episodes is the deaths of certain characters that I kind of liked. And I'm just like, well, fuck you too. Cool. I don't care anymore. And I haven't really cared since season 3, part 1 aired, and they really, really botched making part 1 entertaining. Like Fire Force, like the first season of Fire Force is good, like really good. The second season of Fire Force, it's entertaining. It has its good moments, but it also has much more flaws than the first season. The third season has been helter skelter. It has been all over the place. It has not been consistent in quality. And now it did focus a lot of its attention where it mattered towards the end and portraying stuff like the Arthur versus Dragon fight this season has been good. I will not deny that. The Arthur versus Dragon stuff was good. And some of the animation for some of the other fights have been good. But like the latest episode, blitzed through a bunch of the doppelganger fights and then acted like they were supposed to be some like impactful commentary on the characters. Like they were supposed to give us something about those characters. And it just did. It just didn't satisfy in those departments. Ugh. Then, of course, we get to the Invisible Man and his soon-to-be wife. Sorry, I was confused by my own notes there. I wrote this in a very potentially misleading way. Anyway, so episode 10 for the Invisible Man and his soon-to-be wife was the basically they visited Shizuka's parents. And Shizuka's dad was really hard to read and all that. You do have Fukun, who is the younger brother, who's very protective of his older sister and was willing to quite literally go to bat to protect her. So that episode was entertaining, but episode 11 was actually one that I was fairly impressed with. Like they took a lot of artistic liberties with episode 11 for Toname's home visit, where they went to the invisible person village and all that, and they decided to get really artistic with the flashback for Akira's best friend. They changed the art style. They changed the overall animation quality. They went all out for this one specific flashback. And I was genuinely impressed with everything that they did for that one. Like, it was really, really good. I liked the way that they accented all of the story that they were doing with the visuals. I liked how they actually started portraying the invisible people in that one. Honestly, I wish the whole series would have been animated similarly to that, because the way that they actually went about portraying the guy gave you far more to work with in your imagination than what the series had previously. It turned out to be really good. So this is a series that genuinely dials up the animation and stuff when it feels like it needs to. I just wish it kept that kind of quality and kept that sort of artistic flavor all the way through. And then of course at the very end you do have the younger brother Fu trying to attack Akira again with a bat. So yeah, he's more violently inclined. The last one, of course, because I haven't watched anything for the Demon Lord's Daughter is Too Cute, is tune in to Midnight Heart, and this one is going in the binge list. This is just a series where, like, while I think it has some watchable points, it just isn't quite worth my time right now. Like, I don't feel like keeping up with it. I don't feel like whatever it is doing is worth my time. And this is particularly important because I have been overworked lately due to, the end of this big 2-story house framing job I've been doing. On top of like all the anime I have to watch, we have Fictionology for Black Lagoon coming up. Yada, yada, yada. As far as the series goes, it just doesn't entice me enough to want to, spend the little free time that I have watching it. It doesn't present enough value for me to think that, yes, I should absolutely keep up with this no matter what. So it's going on the binge list. It's not something that I necessarily deem unwatchable, but it's also not necessarily something that I think is perfectly amazing, perfectly worth keeping up with. It is the kind of series that is probably far more beneficial to binge than to watch weekly. Because if you're watching weekly, you're getting a slow drip, and it feels really, really unsatisfying to go from week to week, doing as little as it actually does. So with that said, we're going to screenshot this and we're going to save the record for next week. And we're going to move on to the final sections for the night. Because, of course, it wouldn't be an animated if we didn't talk about, waifu tier list. If we didn't, objectify the women. Or whatever joke you want to roll with. Odin's Skull is so fucking good. Like S tier alcohol right there. Cinnamon and apple honey wine. Ooh, yeah. All right. I think I took a screenshot of that. So, waifu tier list. So, tonight, like I said, Frieren plus Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. So, we're just start with the titular character for Alia. I actually think Alia, deserves the S tier. I would put her right here, middle S tier. Like, she's good, maybe not like the most amazing thing out there, but like she doesn't top a lot of the others. But I do like her. I think, like, as far as her personality goes, she's great. A little bit on the tsundere side, but I do like my tsunderes. But at the same time, looks very nice. We do have, the sister, Yuki. And Yuki's a bit of a troll. She's a little bit more sadistic. So I'm actually going to put her down here. Because I'm not necessarily a fan of, the sadistic characters or anything. But at the same time, like, she's smart, she's competent, attractive. Just not as much of a fan as I say this. Then you have Alia's mom. Just fucking the MILF tier up here. We'll just, put all the MILFs together. The sister, Maria. Maria, you know what? Because I do like her, she can go right here. She's just like, she's equally as good as Alia, if you ask me. They're both great characters. I just like that Maria is a little bit more on the ditzy side. So I find that somewhat more attractive. And of course you have the maid, and the maid is hardcore B tier. Like, not necessarily my thing. She's really like deadpan, not super interesting, not like super appealing or anything. She's kind of there. Like loyalty, I value, but she's okay. That brings us, of course, to all the ladies of Frieren. So Ubel. Ubel can go at the top of C tier. I don't like her personality. Like, sure, you know what? She's decently attractive. I'll give you that. But the fact that she's a psychopath who will cut anything she feels like cutting, fuck that shit. No, I'm not putting anything anywhere near her. She's the kind of woman to cut your fucking dangle off because she feels like it. Ubel can get bent. Sense can go C tier because I don't know, I'm not necessarily like huge on all the hair she got going. Not very like personality wise, not really my thing. Like physical appearance wise, not really my thing. So she can go there. She can go in E tier. Sayuri, I'm gonna put here in the C tier. I know at least one of you people is going to consider that blasphemy, but fuck you. Not really my thing. She's too bitchy. Not really like, my style of things. Not really, like just outside of my wheelhouse. Frieren can go S tier. Because silver hair elf. Okay. I want autistic elf to teach me magic. Okay. I want Frieren to teach me magic. Like, please, just do it. Please teach me magic, mommy. What? Sorry. Did I say something? I forget this girl's name. Cock magic. This is the girl who can read memories. She is also a C tier. Not necessarily like horrid or anything, but she can. Fern can go in S tier. She can go right there. Fern's good. I find, like she's attractive and everything, but she's a little bit difficult. Probably too difficult for her own good. Not really into Kane and Lawine. They can kind of go in E tier right there. I don't really need to explain why. They just aren't really all that appealing. Method can go right there. You know what? She ain't a MILF, but she got that MILF energy, and like she knows how to fight. And physically, she got them some chesticles. She got that that ass. She got assets, okay. I like her I like her personality and everything, and plus, she too can teach me magic. Flamme, I forget. Don't really know enough about her, so she's gonna go in the A tier here. Like physically, yeah, I get it. You know what? She's got a lot going for her. Personality wise, she seems pretty middle of the road. And again, we don't know enough about her to really make a big judgment on her. She was fundamental to, humanity learning magic and everything. And then we have Lao Fen, I believe that's her name. The speed mage. And she can kind of go in B here. Like, you know what? She's attractive. I like the whole like double bun thing she's got going on. But overall, just kind of a B tier. Not necessarily like the perfect thing out there, but you know what? She belongs there. And maybe once the summer season rolls around, we will rate the 100 girlfriends. But for the time being, that is where we are going to leave it with the ultimate waifu tier list. So let's take care of this. 126 PNG. Download, save. All right, that saves our record. So now is the time to start closing things out. And we're gonna do a little bit of just like news and stuff that I've already talked about, but basically the plan would be Video Monday plus Biggles breakdown. We're going to be talking about anime there. Hopefully I'll be caught up on a couple of the other things that we talk about. Demon Lord's Daughter and Scum of the Brave. Plus I'll put out my own video. Ugh. I'm a little tired. It's almost midnight here for me. Anyway. So there'll be that. Wednesday, Fictionology Black Lagoon. We will be talking Black Lagoon all night long. Me, Muffler Tape, who was in here. This guy right here. Plus the two guys from the Roller Rome cast. Because they're, part of that. And then Saturday is, of course, Chat's open mic night, to where we are going to invite everyone. We're going to put the link out there and bring people on to talk about seasonal anime. We're going to give our thoughts on the totality of the spring season and everything. Mind you, if you're not someone that I recognize and have had regular contact with, you're less likely to be, brought on to the actual panel and everything. So just keep that in mind if you end up showing up there and decide to try and participate. If you're not someone that I have recognized as a regular member, as someone who I can verify, you run the risk of not being included. But otherwise, I'm going to try and get viewers and stuff on to talk about their views on seasonal anime and everything, how they feel about stuff like Frieren, Tojima, Sends to Be Hero, all that stuff. Plus, we're going to be talking about the anime that Rolo recommended and won with. Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet. Now, this one's only 13 episodes long, so that's going to be cool. We'll see how that goes. That said, thank you all for tuning in. This was a long one, and I don't plan to make it a regular thing on this channel to do streams every other week. It's just that with the end of this job rolling up, I had to do that. We had worked alternate Saturdays, and I didn't have enough time to really catch up on everything. Hopefully you guys will keep tuning in, keep supporting. I appreciate it, all of you guys. Wonderful viewers. Who show up and support this shit. That being said, I hope to see you in the next one. It's time for me to log out and have a good rest of my night. I hope you guys have a good rest of your night and a good rest of your week. I will see you later. Enjoy.